Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty One territory, the home and traditional lands of the Ojibwe, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Carrie Linklater and I am the chairperson this afternoon. I am joined to my left by panel member Mr. Robert Krause, and via Zoom, Ms. Judy Redmond. Our city assessor this afternoon is Mr. Eric Gauthier, and our administrative personnel is Mr. Zachary Mohan. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will be then permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. This afternoon, we will be hearing items 5 through 9 and 12 through 14 on the docket. Mr. Mohan, would you please affirm the assessor's testimony?
Of course, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Eric Gauthier.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
To the best of my ability, always, yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
And have you heard from the first applicant on the docket?
Unfortunately, no, for file 21st-272, I have no one guarantee.
All right.
In present.
All right, so we will move item 5 to the end of the docket. So we will proceed to item 6, which is 134 Bard Boulevard.
Speak.
Of course, you can come right here.
Sure.
I'll just affirm you so you can just remain standing. Okay, Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Richard Workman.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon. Mr.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Mr. Chair. And whenever you're ready to proceed, Mr. Gauthier.
I'm ready. So the subject property is roll number 1000-382-8700, commonly referred to as 134 Bard Boulevard, located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo. It's a 2-story single-family home built in 1986. We have no effective age on the dwelling, so it's fairly original condition based on our records. We have a living area of 3,477 square feet above grade. We have a full basement with basement finish. I've got one full bath, 2 half baths, and 2 extra showers. We do have central air conditioning, 1 fireplace. The garage is built in. We have no detached garages, no in-ground pools, no sunrooms. It's located on a plot of land that's fairly standard for the neighborhood, so 9,901 square feet. Our 2025 assessed value is pegged at 1,188,000. Today I'm presenting 3 comparables, all located in South Tuxedo, all 2-story single-family homes. The year built ranges between 1989 and 1995. Effective ages range between 1990 and 1995. Square footage is fairly tight range. 3,093 on the low end and 3,866 square feet on the high end. They all have a full basement. Comp 1 has a park area as well, so it could have an addition on crawl space. Basements are finished in all 3 comps. I have 2 full bathrooms on all 3 of the comparables. Also have 2 half baths and 2 extra showers. They all have central AC. They all have fireplaces. No comp 2 has 2 fireplaces. They all have either a built-in or an attached garage. No detached garages, no pools, no sunrooms. Land is fairly consistent. No comp 1, a little bit larger plot of land at 13,285 square feet. And at the low end, we have comp 3 at 9,123 square feet. The sales took place in 2021, 2022. The sale prices range at the low end just under $1 million, and at the high end $1,355,000, giving a price per square foot range between 323 a square foot and 358 a square foot. The time adjusted sale price, so when we bring these sales forward to our reference date of April 1st, 2023, comes in at a range between 954,000 all the way to 1,272,000. The time adjusted price per square foot. So once the time adjustment is applied, the low end we have 308 a square foot to 364 a square foot at the high end. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessment of 1,188,000 for 2025 as supported by the comparable sales. Are there any questions?
Did you have any questions to the assessor on the information he's just provided?
No.
All right, thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions to the assessor? You're muted. You're muted, Ms. Redmond.
Got it, sorry. I was wondering if, why the higher assessment for the subject property when the other comp 1 and comp 2 have larger lot sizes and they're newer properties. Is that?
Well, newer, I mean, if I brought you through a house built in 1986 and 1990, for most market participants, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So yes, they are newer, but most of these you'll notice don't have a lot of effective age. So I picked comps that were fairly dated. Because based on the information I have, the subject properties dated as well. So I'm not sure the rest of your question, like you're referring to the sale price, you're referring to
the time adjusted sale price, yeah.
Time adjusted sale price of 954 and 1,272 for those ones. Yeah, the subject assessment comes in between those 2 values. So in appraisal, you try not to hang your hat on one comp for that reason. So usually present a few. So the range here is, falls within the range, in the middle-ish of that range.
Okay, thank you.
That's what my recommendation is, to maintain it. It seems reasonable based on what I have here.
Any more questions? Sorry, Ms. Redmond, any more questions?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
Mr. Krebs?
No, that was.
Mr. Goche, I'm just gonna ask you then, which would you feel is your best comparable out of the three that you presented?
I mean, I don't want, like, I just finished saying, I don't like hanging my hat on one, and I usually. But if I was to, so we have 38 Billingham, which is built in 1989, so it's closest in age, it's closest in size. You'll see on some of my briefs when sizes vary a lot, there's adjustments required for that, so there would be no reason to adjust for size. The land location is quite similar. There's a lot of similarities here, built-in garage, no pools, no sunrooms, so that one on spec seems the most similar. But yeah, so if I had to pick one of them, I would say that.
Okay. You did not inspect this property.
I did not.
Do you have the sales details on your three comparables?
The sales details. You know, typically what I'll do is when I'm preparing my brief, I'll go through, like if my subject is dated, I'll go through the comps on ML, the comparables on MLS. And if the subject is dated, I will try my best to find dated ones. If the subject is highly renovated, I will look at the highly renovated ones. I didn't provide in my brief the details of the MLS sales.
Thank you. Mr. Workman, if you would like to tell us about your property.
Yes, everything comparable, I'm not debating this. My property was built in 1985. The key thing, which has to be noted, is we have not done anything to the property except two things. Replace the roof, which had to be done because shingles were 25 years old, and to replace some carpets. Same original kitchen, same original bathrooms, everything is original, which is 40 years old. All around me, there's been renovations in bathrooms and kitchens. We have not done any of that. I'm 77, my wife's 76. We don't intend to do that because we're not going to be living there that much longer. So I think, and I've had the assessor come to my house 8-9 years ago to verify this, that's some time ago, and say, please come and look at my house and verify that everything is original. Because what your algorithm does not do is consider many of the renovations that are going on around me. If you say that's what my assessment should be, that's an 18%, 18% increase in my assessed value. All my neighbors are getting between 5 and 6%. So my question is, why am I getting 18% when I would be pleased if somebody from your assessment department would come to my house and verify what I'm telling you is the truth, that everything is original. But I find 18% 1 year jump, frankly, it's ridiculous. When everybody else is between 5 and 6%. Could someone explain to me how I should get an 18% hit?
Yeah, the question period for me, I think, is over, so. I don't
Okay.
know if you want me to answer questions or what? Okay, so basically the Assessment Act states market value, so we have properties, I'm gonna give you an example, it doesn't pertain to your property. New construction in that last cycle skyrocketed because the cost of materials skyrocketed. So we get phone calls from those homeowners that say similar things like, why am I going up 25 to 30%? Well, to be fair and to have a fair and equitable system, we have to take those variations into consideration because that's what the market is telling us. Now, one of the things about your property, and typically if somebody in Tuxedo is telling me I went up way more than everyone else, the first thing I would ask them is, was your value modified in the previous cycle? And typically the answer is yes. So I'm going to throw back a question. Did you contact us to drop your value last cycle? I already know the answer.
I don't think so. I to be honest, I'm
It's not relevant to today,
No, but
but that's where, if you're asking that question, that's typically where I go with it. It's
No.
like, well, your value started at a lower level. potentially.
potentially got, I didn't. I just, all I do every year is I check and say, what's my increase, what are my neighbors getting? And if I'm the same as my neighbors. I do nothing.
So I can see based on the notes here that you've contacted us several times over the years, and sometimes we review the data, we review the sales, and we've dropped the value, is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's only happened once, I think.
I have the history here.
Yeah, okay,
Be more than once. You typically call us at every residential review program. So sometimes when I review the comps, the comparables, we say, yeah, maybe our model is a bit high and we drop the value. So all I'm saying is that it could be the reason why your property went up more is because you weren't at the same starting point as your neighbors. But let's move on because we can't actually use that
Okay.
as evidence anyways. It's market value today. And there's three ways to reach market value: by looking at comparable sales, by looking at a cost approach, or looking at an income approach. And the income and cost are a little less relevant in this case, so we're focusing on comparables. But coming back to your presentation, maybe there's more you want to let us know.
well, all I can say is. I understand the way your algorithm works, and I haven't called on these houses to see if they had kitchens changed and bathrooms done, I don't know. But. I think that's the thing that's missing in your assessment algorithm.
Yeah, well, it's not actually. So if you actually look at my brief, we have a category called effective age. So I'll give you an example.
So what was that?
Effective age. So
Okay,
what,
okay.
yeah, so what that is say you're looking at two houses that are identical in Windsor Park. You got 2,000 square foot bungalows. One's owned by an elderly couple that bought it in 1957. They never touched a thing. They kept it well kept. They did the roof when they needed to,
Yeah,
et
that'd
cetera.
be me, yeah,
Sure.
okay,
And next door, they've gutted the place, they got, the Pinterest kitchen, everything is redone top to bottom. Well, if both those houses hit the market, obviously the one on the right that's renovated would go for more. So we use a tool called effective age, and this is to the best of our knowledge. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Because there are people who do things that we don't know about. But when we have accurate data, and I've looked at these comparables on MLS, I looked at the pictures to make sure they're not hyper renovated or anything, because that wouldn't be fair. So basically, long story short, is you can see the effective age is very limited on these three. They're dated. So there are dated sales in your area. And those dated sales are telling me that our model value this time around, seems to be accurate. Maybe last time around it wasn't and we dropped it. And now you're going, well, why did I go up more than the neighbors? That I can't really answer, and it's not really relevant to the market value on this data. Does that make sense? We take a brand new, fresh look at every cycle. Just 2-year cycle.
why don't you? When I went out to Burton Cummings Community Club and met with, said, please send an assessor to my house. And take a look.
Well, I looked at this file and I said, dollars for donuts, there's been no permits, we've gone there before.
Nothing's been done.
Nothing's been done. That's what I'm assuming here.
And-
Nothing's been done.
and
I
I-
mentioned it in my brief.
I believe, I'll go and look, call on those houses when I leave here and say, what have you done? To your place? Because I know all around me, there's renovations going on. There's 2 on my street right now. So,
And they might get reassessed.
yeah, but it's not a valid comparison. I know, I know this. I would never get that kind of money for my house. I wouldn't pay it.
Well, someone paid that for a dated house on Deersley and someone paid that for a dated house on Dunbarton. So someone's paying that.
I would like to,
Yeah, I'd be glad to send you those pictures
don't,
of those houses.
yeah, please, and come out and assess mine.
I already know what's there. I don't think.
Well, I don't
You're not
know
being
what to
honest
say.
here.
All I can say is, I sit here and I say 18%. That means I'm gonna be selling my house. I'm gonna be selling my house because my property cost is going up by 18%. And I'm retired, and you're forcing me to do that because in 1 year, you're giving me an 18% bump. I don't think that's fair.
So what happens is an increase in 18% does not necessarily translate into an increase in your property tax bill of 18%. And to assume that is an error, a grave error.
It will,
That I can guarantee you.
yeah, but isn't it just the assessed value and the mill rate? That's
We
determines
don't
my
have
problem.
time today, but I'll call you to explain to you. There's a lot more to it.
Well,
But
that-
long story short, if the city's budget remained the same, all the properties remain the same and they doubled in value, Your value, your assessed value would be double, but your tax bill would be identical.
Yeah, I get
Because the
that.
mill rate is reversed engineered.
Yeah.
So long story short, you can go up 100% if everyone else does, and if everything else remains equal, your tax bill won't change.
Yeah,
But
but
we know that that doesn't happen really.
everybody else on my street is going up
It's
an
important.
average of 5.5%. I'm going up 18. That's my issue.
Well, I've done stats on specific neighborhoods and I can tell you 18% over 2 years in Tuxedo is not out of hand.
Okay,
So
I don't, there's one more thing.
regardless, we need to look at sales. So if you have sales in your
Yes.
presentation, let's focus on that. If you don't, let's move on, I guess.
Mr. Roche, and you said you'll call Mr. Workman.
Yeah, we can go over the dated sales and you can see for yourself. I have no vested interest in value being wrong, so. You know, we wanna.
All right, and you have no questions for Mr.
I
Workman?
have no questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions to Mr. Workman?
No, I do not.
Thank you. And Mr. Kraus.
Mr. Workman, did you have a specific price in mind? Like, I mean, what is the value, what do you believe the value of your house should be? Or what percentage increase do you view?
I think my house is worth probably around $1 million, maybe $1,050,000, something like that. It gets, but that, I mean, it's just based upon what I've seen other people get for their places,
Mhm.
but am I willing to stake my integrity on that, say for sure? I don't know, because I've not put it up for sale. I will be doing that, if this comes through, I probably will be doing that. Because I know my tax bill's down, it's around 10,000 a year, you bring it up to 12, 13,000, like, I gotta get up.
And I have no questions, and thank you very much for coming down such an interesting.
All right, thank you.
On to 161 Park Place East.
Likewise, if you can just come to the desk and just remain standing so I can affirm you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Is Mustard Mohammed?
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I don't know.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's a pretty formal environment.
Formal?
Yeah.
Depends what you're used to, I guess.
Mr. Goche, if you would like to proceed with your brief, please.
So the subject property is roll number 10002777 200. Or sorry, 2777200. Commonly referred to as 161 Park Place East. It's located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo. It's a 2-story single-family home built in 2000. We have 2,904 square feet of living space above grade. We have a full basement with no basement finish. We have 2 full baths, 1 half bath, 1 extra shower, central air conditioning, 1 fireplace site. We have an attached garage, multiple garage. We have no detached garages, no pools, no sunrooms. It's located on a fairly standard piece of land for the neighborhood at 9,081 square feet. Our 2025 assessed value is pegged at 950,000. Today I'm presenting 3 comparables, all in South Tuxedo. They're all 2-story homes, single-family dwellings. The ages range, or the year built ranges between 1986 and 1999. Effective ages range between 1995 and 1999. We have a square footage that ranges between, at the low end, 2,600 square feet, and at the high end, 2,936 square feet. Note I've provided adjustment for comp 3 on the dwelling size. We have full basement on all of them. Since they all had basement finish, an adjustment of about $30 a square foot was applied to bring the comparable sales in line with the subject that does not have a basement finish. Full baths range between 1 and 3. Half baths range between 1 and 3, extra showers range between 0 and 3. They all have central AC, all have one fireplace, all have a multiple attached garage. We have no detached garages, no pools, no sunrooms. The land's fairly consistent, but note that comp 1 is located on West Taylor, so there is a $20,000 adjustment to bring that comparable to par with the subject. And what I've done here is provided the sale prices that range between $980 and $1 million, call it $1 million. Sale price per square foot ranges between 334 at the low end to 377 at the high end. Time adjusted sale prices range, pretty tight range actually, 932,000 to 943,000. The total adjusted sale price, so once my adjustments for location, for basement finish, and for dwelling size are applied, you now have a range between 907 and 983. I have a recommendation to reduce the 2025 assessed value to 915,000. As supported by the adjusted comparables. Are there any questions?
Here on your comparison 1 and 3, the lot size is substantially higher, like 9,885 square feet, and the comparison 3 has 10,250. So the lot size makes a lot of difference.
So if I walked you through 3 backyards, one of them being 9,001 square feet and one being 9,081 dollars for donuts, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, and most market participants either. So typically we don't start adjusting for things like that. Now the comparable one is located on a busy street. So it is fair to, these properties typically sell for less. It's less desirable to live on a busy street. So we'll look at sales and we'll look at our model influences, and like I said, I've provided an adjustment there for that comparable, but I would not get into adjustments over the difference between 9,000 and 9,081 or 10,250. It's not substantial enough to require any sort of adjustment, or it wouldn't be noticeable. It'd be like walking through a house that's 2,000 square feet and one that's 2,030 square feet. We probably would have difficulty telling the difference unless you pull out a measuring tape.
When it comes to lot price, the price of the lot depends on the area and it's per square foot or per square yard. So when the size of the lot is bigger, the price of the house is more. So by looking at the lot is, understand by looking at the lot, there may not be a very noticeable difference. When you talk in terms of price, the price will be way different because of the lot size. So this is a parameter you
Do you have
cannot
market
ignore.
data, do you have the market data to support that? Because I don't. Now, if the lot is double the size, as we sometimes come across, absolutely. If there's subdividable areas, absolutely, no doubt about it. But when it comes to land, it's not necessarily about the size, but what you can do with it.
This is the point I want you guys to know.
Okay,
Because-
excuse me, I'm just gonna stop everybody right here. The assessor has offered, who has recommended that he's reduced to 915,000. And are you going to accept that or no?
In my opinion, the price of the house is not that much. In my opinion, and I
Okay.
already,
So you're not accepting the 915,000 recommendation? That's what I need to know, sir.
no,
Thank you.
And is there any other questions you have regarding the evidence I provided?
no. That was the only observation of the lot
Okay.
size.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions to the assessor?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Krause?
Do you have the time adjusted sale or the total adjusted sale price for each of these comparables? Do you have like the square foot price for those as well or no? Or is that, I can just figure that out?
You can do it.
Okay.
It's grade 5 math,
Yeah,
but
I
if
got you.
you,
I
if,
was just hoping.
yeah,
Okay.
I caution against using that because
Okay.
it's actually not correct methodology for proper appraisals. I wasn't trained that way, and I feel like it can lead with give you very erroneous valuation conclusions. But if you want to go down that route, I suggest you apply adjustments before doing that. And then you could come up with your own values, but I don't pay very much attention to that. And if you look at any AIC appraisals, if you read the appraisal of real estate third Canadian edition, you will find that that's not a thing in residential. Commercial, different bottlenecks, but so I don't operate that way, I don't calculate that way, but you're welcome to do that if that's what you feel about it. Thanks for calling.
Mr. Gauthier, under your first number, for the 950,000, the 2025 assessment.
Mhm.
Is your square footage beneath that, is that reflective of the 915? Of the reduction?
This total assessment per square foot? No, this would be, I would imagine, and once again, I don't operate or look at that or consider that because I wasn't trained that way, but. My assumption is that since I haven't touched that number, that would be the 950 divided by the amount of square feet of the dwelling.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna ask you about I have not seen an assessor do this, where you've got the under the basement finish or the comparables, you've got the neighborhood beside it.
So basically, there's a few things you need to know with to say that a house with a basement finish is worth the same as a house that has 1,200 square feet of basement finish is obviously a huge mistake. So we all know there's a value difference. So there's a few different ways. You can use depreciated cost. So I could tell you right now, if you're gonna do a plain Jane finished basement with drop ceiling and like nothing too fancy, you're at about $50 a square foot to construct that new. Now, these are not new basements, right? So they are depreciated. So you basically apply depreciation to the cost to construct, and you come up with an estimate. I typically adjust $30 a square foot for a standard older basement finish. Now, if we're getting into walkout basements with wet bars and things that are in theater rooms, and that's a whole other ball of wax, but I've applied at $30 a square foot. Our model does add value for basement finish in the same sort of fashion. This was done manually to bring the appellants. It wouldn't be fair to just say these comps are similar when they're not, right? These have basement finish and it does add value. So provided adjustments there. And same with dwelling size. The dwelling size, same thing you can do. One of the things I do is add new construction. So I'm well versed in the cost to build, depreciate it. That's one way to come up with a reasonable adjustment for size. The other way is to strip out land, pools, outbuildings. You're left with the structure. And once you have the structure, you divide it by the amount of square feet. You now come up with a reasonable price per square foot on a dwelling, and you adjust accordingly. Without these adjustments, you're kind of throwing scrambled eggs in the blender. Doing your best, but it's not accurate. So I don't do it every time. You'll notice it's not on all, I don't adjust things on all my briefs, especially if my comparables are fairly clean. In other words, they're very similar in land, location, and all that. I won't bother. It's a lot of work for me. Drives a lot of questions. So what I do is keep it simple, but in this case, $30 a square foot on the basement finish, and I did a 20,000 adjustment for the bus route and the traffic. I looked at sales on West Taylor and they seem to be going for a little bit less. That's a number you kind of have to look at the sales you have and try to compare it to similar ones and say, well, there's about a 20 or 30 grand spread here. So.
All right, thank you. If you would like to tell us about your property.
Yeah, like 2014, I bought this house for, it was the assessed value of this house was around 789. I bought this house, it was on the market for 8 or 9 months. I bought this house for 651. And after that, every 2 years, I go through a grinder, like the assessed value of the house is always bumped up, 889, 999, and 799. So I have to, the real value when I bought this house, that is a real proof that the worth of the house is 651 at that time. And it cannot climb a steep ladder year after year. So the theory has to follow some logic. So every year, the price of the house doesn't go 200,000. When I bought it for 651, now you are assessing it for 950. So in 10 years, the price of the house is not gone up like 300,000. This is one point. The second is you picked up 3 comparison, which suits your prerogative, which suits your judgment. I provided you a letter with 7 properties in the same Tuxedo area. And the house price range from 850,000 to 775,000. I provided you this letter. When I had a meeting with the assessor, his name was Stephen, and I was talking to him. I explained everything. This is the situation is. He himself gave me a property name. He said this 215 West Taylor, which is number 6 in my letter. And he mentioned that this will be, my house is somewhat comparable with 775. And he said he need to talk to his supervisor to get it through, but he was not sure. But later on, he didn't do anything. And I got the 950 assessed price, which was there. So if you look at these 7 properties, which I gave you in this letter, this is all from your website, and they are all comparable to my house. So assessing this, and then on your website, it says in my area, the average increment of the property tax is 11%. My house increment is 26%. So how come my house is pushed out so much? So please come, I'll write you a letter or explain everything to you. I want you guys to review it and take the price which I mentioned in my letter. This is 775.
I'm lost here. We're still in question period for me?
No.
No, no.
This is his presentation here. Okay, okay. Okay. I have reviewed your evidence, so.
You have a letter, right?
Questions, yeah,
Okay, so.
I have reviewed your comparable sales, and one of the things that I noticed is you omitted the time adjustment, and some of them require a time adjustment, so that was kind of left out. The other kind of question that I had is most of these comparables are built in the 80s, well, some in the 70s. The issue I have with that is, and they're dated. So I don't know if you've ever walked through a house built in 1977 that's dated. I just bought one. It's paneling everywhere, and it's shocking how dated it is. And if you've walked through one, obviously you live in one that's built in the early 2000s. There's definitely a valuation difference there. So that's being accounted for. And you'll notice, like on my comparables, you say that they suit me. What I try to do is find similar year built, similar in size, similar in location as much as possible. But yeah, if you start dabbling in dated 1970s homes in the area and you don't apply a correct adjustment for these differences, you can be misled on your value. I don't want to beat a dead horse because you were here listening to the previous about why percentage increases. To make a long story short, when we're dealing with market value, we actually have to look at that and say, we don't care what the percentage increase is. I add new construction to a vacant piece of land and it goes up 350%. Well, the area is up on average 11%. Who cares? That property is up 350%. So specific properties, and then the other thing is previous cycles, if we've manually tampered or manually adjusted the value for you based on the sales that we looked at on the last cycle, you got a different starting point. So I'll let you think about it, but probably what happened is last time we adjusted the value downwards after a review, and now you're playing catch up. This time around, the houses that we're looking at support the value, and the model is a different model. It's a different cycle. The sales are different. We have to look at it with a fresh set of eyes, right? The same way this board can't look at previous decisions to base today's decision. So the past is the past. We have to look at market value on a specific data. And that's what I'm doing here. I appreciate the information that you've sent in. I've looked at these. Some of them require location adjustments, time adjustments. One of them is on Liberty Street. My question is what is Liberty Street way out in Charleswood have to do with that? Comp is just out of nowhere, but so yeah, I guess I will leave it to the board to decide whose evidence looks more accurate and take it from there.
So I
That's
want
what
to present one more point, with in Tuxedo area, the houses which are built earlier are known as character homes. They were built using a very sound material and very sound designing. So those prices of those houses are way higher compared to the new construction, because the code has changed and there's a lot of liberty has been given to the new constructions. So that's why the prices of the whole houses are, as you are saying, should be less, it's not less. Look at the guy who was earlier sitting here explaining the things to you. So this, I gave you the comparison. If you are not happy with the last one, I would say delete it, but there are other 6 houses which are around 775 to 830.
Yes,
So-
Mr., we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Yes, you've presented your properties.
Yeah.
The assessor has asked questions, so we're gonna move on.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions for Mr. Ahmed?
No, I do not, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chris.
I do not, thank you.
And Mr. Ahmed, I just want to confirm that you are looking for a value of 775,000, correct? All right. And what year did you purchase the home?
2014.
Right, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to proceed to 55 Hard Place.
Subject
Oh,
property.
sorry, I just need to affirm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry. Oh, good. Ms. Applicant, please state your full name. Oh, sorry, we weren't able to hear you at the moment. Let me try something.
Is it on the top right on Zoom, the mute button or the top?
Sorry,
The mute button on Zoom, is it on the top?
top right, but let me try one thing. Let me try that. Oops.
I can see the little mute button in the bottom left, so
Yeah.
she's muted at her right.
Okay,
There we go.
okay, can you,
Hear me now?
Yeah.
yeah, there we go, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, phew.
Sorry, right, so Ms. Applicant, please state your full name.
Cheryl Stern?
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Gertchen, if you would like to proceed.
Great. So the subject property is roll number 1000-395-0600. Commonly referred to as 56 Bard Place. It's located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo. It's a 2-story single-family home built in 2003. There's 3,567 square feet of living space above grade. Full basement. I provided details on the basement finish here. It's got 1,357 square feet of basement finish. We have 2 full baths, 2 half baths, 1 shower. Does have central AC, 1 fireplace, a multiple attached garage, no detached garages. Does have an in-ground pool, no sunroom. It's located on a sizable pie lot, 18,117 square feet. Note it does have, it backs, my memory serves me correct, it's Shaftesbury. So it backs onto a bus route, medium traffic, and I guess across the road there's park. So it's got a lot going on back there. We have the 2025 assessed value pegged at 1,802,000. Today I'm providing 4 comparables, all located in South Tuxedo except comp number 3 that's in Tuxedo, so middle Tuxedo. They're all 2-story homes, single family homes. The age ranges between the 1960s all the way to late 1990s. Effective ages, should pay a little bit more attention to is 93 to 2006 range. The living area varies quite a bit. Some adjustments were provided there. Ranges between at the low end 3,064 square feet and at the high end 4,208 square feet. They all have full basements. Note that comp one has a park basement as well, so likely a crawl space addition. The basement areas vary quite a bit, which is why I decided to adjust for that. So at the low end, we have 787 square feet for comp three. And at the high end, we have comp number one that has 1,129 square feet of basement finish. Full baths range between 2 and 3, half baths range between 1 and 2, extra showers range between 1 and 2. They all have central AC. Note that comp one has 2 fireplaces. The rest have 1. Multiple attached garages present in all the comps. The detached garages are not present in any of them. Luckily, the first 3 have pools, and only comparable number 4 does not have a pool, so an adjustment was provided for that. No sunrooms. The land varies substantially. So comparable 1 is more comparable with subject in size. It also has a negative influence. So it has the external, the super mailboxes. So that's where people pull up and get their mail at whatever time they want. And then the other 3 comparables are closer to a standard lot in the area, which is around the 10,000-ish square foot range. The sales took place in 2021, 2022, and all the way up to January 2023. The range, the actual sale prices range between the low end 1,460,000, at the high end 1,700,000, providing a all-encompassing price per square foot range of between, pretty wild spread here, between 404 a square foot all the way to 540 a square foot. The time adjusted sale prices, once we bring up to our reference date, that ranges between 1.527 at the low end and 1.635 at the high end. Once my adjustments are applied for dwelling size, fireplaces, basement finish area, and pools, as well as land, coming in at a range between, at the low end, 1,473,000 and at the high end, 1,865,000. I am making a recommendation to reduce the value to 1,650,000 after reviewing and adjusting my comparable sales. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Stern, are
Yes,
you willing to accept the recommendation by the assessor?
not at present. I do have some other things that I think haven't been factored in.
Okay, so you're saying you will not be accepting the 1,650,000 then?
Right.
Okay, thank you. And do you have questions to the assessor for what he's just presented?
I do. The high end one, the other 3 comps, I think are certainly within what I think is close to the range. They're all under the 1.6, certainly under the 1.65. That's the adjusted cost. The one that's at the higher end is the one that's on Hopwood. And when I'm looking at the sales data from your website, there were 7 houses on Hopwood that was sold within that time period. They do vary between $289 per square foot sales price to a high of $643, and the one that you used as a comp was $540. Given that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 that are significantly less than that, is there a reason why you used the higher end, and was that property renovated to account for the increase compared to its neighbors?
So one of the challenges I have with this particular property, and I think we had a conversation on the phone and I mentioned this, but it's built in 2003, which is not typical for the neighborhood. So as you know, there was a couple of bays that were developed later, Deersley being one of them, and I guess this one on Bard. And so
Sorry, that's 34 Hopwood you're saying?
no, I'm talking about your I'm talking about the subject
My
property.
property. Okay, great. Okay.
So it's newer, so basically, the first thing I do is look for sales of similarly built, similar era homes, but you come up short, so.
Yeah,
What
I
I've
have
done is focus more on the effective age, so our effective age, and it's kind of a complex thing to explain to somebody, but basically. The house is more like a house built in 2006, for example, 34 Hawk. Because it's received some TLC, it's received renovations, and to answer your questions, it is renovated. So I would have looked at a sale of a house built in 1986 that was renovated. The lowball ones that you're seeing on Hawkwood, and I know which ones you're looking at. Because we'll be discussing them today. Are dated and from the late 70s or early 80s. And what happens there is that if you use that to compare it to a house on Bard or on Deersley that's built in the early 2000s, and you don't actually apply an adjustment for that, you get into trouble there. It's misleading. So that's why I picked these particular comps to answer your question. And I like that 3 of them had a pool, so I try to pick the most comparable that I can find in an objective manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't always have access to all the information that you have. Because, for example, Colchester, again, it's at the higher end. 3 properties were sold. 471.55 is the one that you had used, and the other ones were 352 and 429. So I think those are somewhat at the higher end and have been certainly more renovated. Certainly the one on Hopwood, I would say, is significantly renovated, and compared to my property that hasn't been, given its sale price compared to its neighbors. But I'll discuss that, I guess, later when I have a chance. I just wanted to know, to acknowledge if there was significant renovations done to the properties that you used.
Yeah, I would say the ones, particularly 34 Hawkwood, given the amount of effective age that's on there, would be renovated, so. That one would be renovated more substantially. And you can see it by the sale price, right? It is at the high end. So I'm not suggesting your house is worth 1.865, right? I made a recommendation for 200,000 lower than that. So there is obviously a range. I'm not at the high end of the range here. And that's kind of, when I was looking at this, when I see something outlie like that, call it an outlier, either on the low side or the high side, I tend to pay less attention. Unless, of course, the subject property should be an outlier as well for whatever reason, but that's why I'm recommending I drop the value. I feel like it's probably closer to comp 3 or comp 1, I think, or comp 2 or somewhere in the middle of that pack. So that's why I suggested that.
Okay.
Did you have any further questions?
No, I do have other things to comment, but no questions
Yeah,
for
you'll
the.
be presenting your brief just momentarily. Thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions for the assessor?
No, I think he answered all the questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chris?
I just, with the effective year built, I notice you don't have any manual changes there. Is that just because it's such a small timeline? Really?
Yeah, I only get into adjustments with that so basically what I look at is. With our effective age, I'll take a look at the pictures on MLS. Typically, if you're looking at an updated kitchen and maybe some flooring, and that's it, we might add 10 or 15 years effective age. We do use a calculator to try to standardize this stuff. It's the best tool we can come up with. If there's a huge gap, you'll notice in some other briefs that we're going to go through today, there is a big gap there. I will provide adjustments to try to bring it on par with the subject. Here, I felt like it was close enough. I mean, these are older homes than the subject, but they've been renovated. So they're probably more aligned, they might have been renovated 10, 15 years ago and they're kind of in line with the subject. So that's the reason I picked them. That's the reason I'm not adjusting for that. I did adjust for size, as you noticed, but other than that, it's just smaller differences like basement finish and pool.
Okay. Just wondering, Mr. Goche, so you've reduced or you've offered to reduce this property to 1.6. Because you felt Hopwood, it's not as
Yeah, so
nice the property is 34 Hopwood.
Yeah, I struggled to find decent comps for this one, to be honest. So I feel like the comparable number 4, like a highly renovated home, on Hopwood is probably. Like I said, I'm coming out adjusted at 1.865 and it's just way above the rest of the pack, and that tells me that maybe I should pay a little bit less attention to that. I like a tight range when I can after adjustments, so that's nice, because that really tells me like, hey, that really should be here. And when I see something that's way off to one side or the other, and I ask myself some questions like maybe the person buying it spent a little too much, maybe they weren't informed enough, maybe they hadn't seen enough comparable homes, maybe they got pressured, maybe they bought it sight unseen, I don't know. So I tend to try to move outliers away, and I'm comfortable reviewing 3 comparables if I see an outlier. And like I said, reviewing comps 1 to 3, I feel like 1.650 is in the ballpark, it's in there. It's a substantial reduction. I was hoping the appellant would take it, but.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, because you have an effective year, 2003.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Mrs. Stern, and she explained that the house is fairly, not substantially renovated or anything like that. So we did have a conversation, and that's kind of what I based my assessment on. I did not inspect the property. We didn't have any permits indicating to us that any substantial work was done. So I'm just assuming it's an 03 house that's well kept and in original condition.
Property, thank you. Ms. Stern, if you'd like to give us your brief.
Yes, so I'll be short. There's just sort of 2 issues. Again, my property, as we said, has not been substantially renovated, so it's dated, and I think that needs to be kind of taken into consideration when we're comparing sort of some of the higher end ones. But I think that the adjuster's already sort of commented on that. I think what's not taken into account is the significant negative impact that backing onto Shaftesbury has. When we moved in and built the house, there was no property, there was no businesses out beyond Sterling Lion. So there was just some residential traffic there. And there may have been I don't think there's a bus route. But since that time, I mean, you're all familiar with, IKEA has moved in there, the Costco has moved in there, there's the outlet mall, there's multiple other kind of malls, as well as significant increase in the residential buildings. There's been a number of different other condo units or apartment units. There's a church out there. There's multiple sort of car businesses, etc. That has increased significantly the amount of traffic that's on Shaftesbury. So we now have semis, we have, trucks, it's bus route. It's also an ambulance route to avoid the traffic that's on Kenaston. So in my mind, I think we have the same volume. It's not the same number of lanes. We have 2 lanes. Kenaston is 4 lanes, but it's the same kind of traffic that would be on Kenaston, and that's right in your backyard. And it is literally, there's a sidewalk and then there's the street. So there's no real buffer there whatsoever. There's not a berm, there isn't anything. So when you think of the backyard that has a pool and significant landscaping and etc., the enjoyment factor from that is markedly reduced. I mean, I can tell you that you cannot sit out in the yard without hearing the traffic. You can't open your windows in the evening because you wouldn't be able to sleep with the traffic. And that traffic is from 6 or 6:30 in the morning till almost 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Later in the evening, it's most residential. Earlier in the morning, it's all the trucks, etc., that are servicing the businesses that are out there. And I think that would have a tremendously negative impact. I couldn't find any comps that back onto Shaftesbury that have been sold in that time period. The only thing that I could find on Shaftesbury was significantly older than mine, and that was 419 Shaftesbury, which is a 2-story, but it was built in 1964. It's 2,800 square feet. It was sold in 2021 at a sales square foot per price of $297. So significantly less. I don't know what shape the house was in. I would say that dated is dated, whether it's dated from the 1980s or dated from whatever, 25 years ago. Carpet has to be replaced, flooring has to be replaced, kitchen's going to be redone. The renovations are the same, so that I don't know how you account for that. You guys may have a better experience in how you account for that. But I think if you look at that significant sale price, and that house, the front part of it is on Shaftesbury, not the backyard. And few people sit out on their stoop to enjoy the afternoon or the evening, whereas most people spend their afternoons in the summertime in their backyard. So the fact that that Shaftesbury is backs onto my backyard, I think makes an even more negative of an impact on that. So I think that's a big factor. I know that the adjuster tried to take that into account. And when we discussed it, he talked about, for example, the comp on Park Boulevard that has a mailbox. And I would say that that's residential traffic. That's cars pulling up every so often to pick up their mail. There's no semis pulling up to pick up their mail there. There's no trucks. There's no any of that. And the other comp that was the school, again, the property does not, it's not across from the school pickup zone. So it's not across from the front doors of the school where the traffic would be. And even then it would be, again, residential traffic, certain time periods of the day, people dropping off their kids at 8:39 in the morning, picking them up at 3:30 in the afternoon, not in the evenings and not on the weekends. Whereas mine is pretty well 12 to 14 hours, 7 days a week. So I don't know how you factor that in. So I couldn't give you a number to try to reduce it. But I think given that even by square footage, it's 1.65, I think that my thing of around 1.5, 1.5, whatever, it accounts for the significant drop in the value of the property and the ability to sell it in the market. The number of people who are willing to put up with that kind of noise in their backyard. I think that has to be taken into account.
Thank you. Mr. Goodshade, did you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Ms. Redmond, any questions?
Just wondered if, did you mention 1.5 million was what you were thinking it was?
Well, if I go by my real estate agent, and I know that's not evidence for you, it's 1.3 to 1.4 is what she's told me, but that's not evidence. I do think that 1.5, which I had a couple of years ago, I think before this most recent one, I think that's close enough for me that I wouldn't bicker about it. If you'd ask me what I think I really could sell it for, I'd be happy at 1.4, but I wouldn't bicker about the 1.5 either.
Right, I actually do have.
I mean, I'm trying to be fair, and some of the things that I'm trying to take into account, I don't know exactly how you put a number on that until I actually put my house up for sale. And then, and we don't have that option at this point in time. So all I can do is try and give you the, what the impact of that thing, that especially the traffic would be on the potential sale price and therefore the market value of my house. I know it's killing me, and I know I'm moving because I've had enough of that traffic in the back of it. And I know that I've not renovated my house because I don't think that I get that money out of it, because I think the number of people that are going to be interested in a house that has that much traffic, and I mean, it's like having your backyard on Keniston or I don't know, Portage or whatever. I just don't have a comp that has been sold that backs onto Shaftesbury. I only have the one that's significantly older, and that's the front. It's the front yard that's on Shaftesbury.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chief.
I just wanted to ask if you were aware that all the comparables you provided in your brief were post-reference and they're after our valuation database for 2020.
Yeah, until we talked, I didn't realize that. And unfortunately, when we spoke, I was at work and could not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I just couldn't take the time to try and go back and go on the website and try and find those. So
I
understand.
remember if I had told you, I was like, I'm pretty sure it was her. I had told her.
Yes, no, you did.
Probably too late at that point.
Well, just because I was at work, had I had the afternoon off, I might have had the time, because I had till 4:30, like you had reminded me. So I would have looked it up, but I was at work and there's no way I was.
Okay,
I
fair
could
enough.
Yeah.
That's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Krause?
I have no questions.
And I also have no questions. And thank you very much for appearing this afternoon, Ms. Stern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, we are going to move to the end of the docket.
That's 40 years, right?
Yeah. Is Usher available?
Yes, he recently arrived. Yeah, I met him.
Yeah. Char? Great.
You good, are you? Hello? If you can just give me 2 minutes quickly to set everything up. Would
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And your last name is Alice?
Yeah, Abbas.
Abbas?
Abbas, yeah, if you can.
Abbas,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, I'm good, actually, yeah. Okay, I'll just affirm you. Yep. So, Mr. Applicant, please state your full name. Ashar Abbas. Do you affirm that the evidence you brought to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon.
You too.
Mr. Roche, maybe you are ready.
Okay, so we're starting with 7-Eleven Park, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the subject property is roll number 10002670000, commonly referred to as 711 Park Boulevard South. It's located in South Tuxedo. It's a 2-story, single-family home built in 1988. On file, we do not have any effective age on the property, or on the dwelling, I should say. The living area is 4,835 square feet above grade. We have a full basement with no basement finish. We have 2 full baths, 2 half baths, 2 extra showers, central AC, 1 fireplace, a built-in attached garage, no detached garages, no in-ground pools, and no sunrooms. Location tricky on this one. We've got a large plot of land, so almost a double lot for the area, but on a busy corner. So here we are again. 20,148 square feet. Like I said, bus, external corner, medium traffic. So you can refer to the map for that. RSS value for 2025 is pegged at 1,415,000. Today I'm providing 3 comparables, all located in South Tuxedo, all 2-story, single-family homes. The ages or the year built ranges between 1982 and 1990. Effective ages range between 1990 and 1994. I've also bundled in kind of condition in that as well, provided some adjustments there. Living area ranges between 3,208 square feet at the low end and 3,866 square feet at the high end. So they're all substantially smaller in dwelling size than the subject. All have full basements. Comp 3 has a full basement and part area, so likely a crawl space addition. As far as basement finish, they all have basement finish. Applied an adjustment of about $30 a square foot to bring them on par with the subject that does not have basement finish. We have between 2 and 3 full baths, 3 of them. All 3 have 2 half baths and 2 extra showers. All have central AC. Note comps 1 and 3 have a second fireplace. All have a built-in garage, no detached garages. An in-ground pool is present at comp number 3. So an adjustment was made there. No sunrooms. Land fairly consistent for the comps, with comp 3 being a little bit larger lot at 13,851 square feet and comp 2 at the low end at 9,123 square feet of land. The sales took place in 2021 and 2022. Sale prices range between 1,230,000 at the low end and 1,398,000 at the high end. All encompassing prices per square foot range between $350 and a square foot and $436 a square foot. The time adjusted sale prices, when we bring these sales to our April 1st, 2023 market valuation date, the range there is 1,252,000 at the low end and 1,334,000 at the high end. Once adjustments are applied, we're in a fairly tight range. The bottom of the range, we have 1,469,000. At the high end, we have comp 3 coming in at 1,552,000. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value as supported by the adjusted comparable sales. Note that the subject property is located on the busy corner at Taylor Avenue, but the lot size is substantially larger than the comparables and should offset this negative location. It's a tough call. I spent a lot of time on that trying to figure that out, but yeah, you get twice the land, but in less desirable areas. So how much that impacts the market value before you ask me, I'm not 100%. I did review an expired listing in 2018 that shows that the dwelling had a little bit of renovations, mostly to the bathrooms. So note that we did not have an effective age, but I guess if there's no plumbing changes or whatever, we wouldn't have been aware of that in purpose. So it may require a small amount of effective age. So the 1988 maybe should be 1998 or something like that. Any questions at all?
Yes.
Yes, I do have, so starting with your adjustments that you have made for all the comps, just wanted to know, how are you quantifying these adjustments? Because of majority, 2 of your comps, actually 3 of your, all the 3 of your comps are significantly lower in the living area.
Mhm.
None of them are over 4,000 or closer to, the subject. So I just wanted to know, how are you quantifying these adjustments?
2 different ways. Glad you asked the Shar. We've gone through this earlier today, but you weren't here. We'll give you a refresher. There's 2 ways you can do an adjustment for the type of dwelling side adjustments. One of them is called the improvement residual method. That one there, you need to know your land values. You strip out the land value, you strip out the pools, you strip out the outstructures. You're left with the residual value, which is the building. You do basic grade 5 math, you come up with a price per square foot. It's your adjustment. That's one way. The second way is, what does it cost to construct it? I happen to know those numbers. And what you do is you basically figure out a depreciation from that. For the depreciated cost to construct a building like that, you might be at 350 to 450 a square foot. Might be 30% appreciated. You come up with your adjustment that way. Now, the mistake is to not adjust them and say that, hey, in the marketplace, a 3,000 square foot house in Tuxedo is going to be worth the same as 4,800 square foot house in Tuxedo. That's the mistake.
Okay, for your comp number 2, were you able to look at the pictures of it?
I did
Or-
review 38 Billingham and I did review 694 Park South. And I did actually, like I said, I reviewed the expired listing. I made an assumption that it's still in that condition, so hopefully that assumption is correct. So renovated bathrooms, some flooring that was voted that I can notice. So it didn't look super dated, but it wasn't, you know, all spiffed up or anything like that. I felt like comp number 2 and comp number 3 required a downward adjustment on condition and finishing, fit and finishing. So I added it in the effective age category here. I knocked it down 75K and 100K and felt like if you were to spend that on those particular properties, you'd be more at par with what I saw. 7-Eleven Park.
Okay, I actually feel that your adjustments are a little lower than what it should be. They were, like, I mean, I looked at the pictures of 38 Billingham as well. I felt like the adjustments were significantly higher than compared to our subject property, or what you have put over here, 75,000, but I'll leave it to that. I'll move on to my next question. All of your comps, they significantly have a lower lot size. and they don't have any of those negative land influences that our subject has. And I know you have talked about it, that it was
Yeah.
difficult, so. Were you not able to find any of the properties in closer proximity or in the same neighborhood that would have similar lot sizes or similar land influences?
No, I looked, I was honestly, that's the first thing I looked for, but I wasn't able to come up with anything. As far as land sizes and influence, and if you did find one, then there could be other substantial differences that you have to account and adjust for, but. It's a tough one, because you got double the land size. But you've got it on a busy corner, so I struggled with this, and I'm being straight up and honest, I don't really know. If an adjustment should be required for that, yeah, I'm, that's a good one. If you guys know the answer, let me know, but I searched, I tried, and I know that, like, you know, obviously the value is lower if you wanna live on the corner of Taylor, and that's a busy street, let me tell you. But you do have 20,000 square feet of land to hide on, so. Yeah,
But it is significantly busier, and then.
yeah,
and
it is.
It is mentioned in the, under the land influences that it's on a bus route, there's a stop sign right outside of the house as well, and.
So to be clear, our model's taking an axe to that property, right? So the minute you see a bus route, external corner, medium or high traffic influence on the city of Winnipeg's website, our model is taking a hacksaw and it's cutting a piece of a value off. So it's being accounted for in our model value. Sometimes it's debatable to me when I look at that, is the model taking enough off?
Yes.
That can be a question, and I have asked that question before, and I have looked at it. Sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't. It's a very difficult piece of data to extract in the marketplace. To do that accurately, you need more than one sale, you need several, and sometimes you just don't have. So here you are guessing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie and say I know what that's worth or not worth, as far as the land or location. Toss up, you know, for me, it would be like, yeah, I've got a little bit bigger lot, but. So, I don't know. Let's move on, cause honestly, you just get, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so I'll move on to my next question, which of your three comp, which would you say is your strongest comp, if you have to? Just, or like a closest comp to the subject, if you could.
Well, normally when people ask me that, if I provided adjustments, I usually tell them it's the one with the least amount of adjustments, because that tells me it's the most similar to the subject. So that being said, as you know, Ashar, math is not my strong point. But I do the best I can with the math knowledge I have. But take a look and see which one would have the least amount of adjusting, and that would probably be the one, is it comp number one?
1 and 2 both have 3 adjustments, but I'm not looking at the numbers.
I would say comp one has the least amount of adjustments, right? So if you ask me which one is the most similar to the subject, keep in mind it has no effective age, so it's fairly dated, okay? 22 Dumbarton, that one there, I remember looking at the pictures of it, it's like honey oak, everything, and pretty dated. So adjust for size, you know, adjust for basement finish, an extra fireplace, bang, you're there. But then the question becomes, is the land a factor? So that's probably my favorite comp, or the one that I feel is the most comparable, but as you know, I'm not a fan of hanging my head on one.
No.
And I think that's always a mistake, but if you're gonna ask, I'll answer.
Perfect. So comp 1, you would say, is your strongest comp. Even though it has significantly lower lot size and significantly lower living area as well, but okay, I'll leave it to that over there.
Hey, Ashar, I'm all ears if you've got one that's a lot more similar in size and location, and I'm open to looking at that. That's what I came up with.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe there's something out there I don't know about.
and that's all my questions were.
Thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions?
No, I don't think I have any questions for the assessor, thanks.
No questions.
I just have a couple, Mr. Noche. Would you say that this property is an anomaly in the area?
Well, land size for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and location. I mean, if you look on the map, that really shows, I mean, that's. You've got. You know, it's almost a double the size of a standard lot, and it's like I said, on being on a busy corner, so there's a lot going on there, and. I wish I knew the answers to that question, and I think only the market knows the answer to that, and like probably our model doesn't know the answer to that, and probably I don't know the answer to that, but. It is an anomaly as far as location is concerned, as far as the dwelling is concerned. There are houses of that size, year built. All over the place there, like that's not an issue, it's more the location.
All right, so I'm assuming the house is facing Hopwood, like the front of the house. It's not built sideways on the lot.
Correct, it's facing, it is facing part south and not facing,
And is it closer to its, the neighbors as opposed to the street? Is there a larger side yard?
I don't remember the positioning of the house as far as the lot, but typically when people build on a busy street, they try to like do their best to. Make the impact the least amount possible, but I suppose I can't guarantee that, but someone could probably look it up on Google Maps if you guys have your computers, do a little street view check on it, but. That's typically what I do to check that out. I didn't notice anything, like I look at our satellite view and I didn't notice anything off with the positioning of the house that was abnormal, so. From what I remember, it was fairly well centered and not, but.
So I'm assuming then you did not make any manual adjustments in terms of value because of the location.
Now, the way I looked at it, I was thinking of doing an adjustment upwards for the size and then downwards for the location. And then I realized that this was gonna turn into a substantial project that I don't have time for. In other words, like, I'm gonna come up short and look and look and look and look and look, right? So at some point, I figured, okay, you get double the land, but a bad location. Sounds like a wash to me. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I'm not sure. If you're a land person, I guess you're in. If you're a quiet person, I guess you're out. I don't know. We dealt with this one on the last one. I'm not super confident in answering those questions, but hopefully in the next cycle, we get some sales of some large lots and busy corners, and then I can tell you and hopefully find something really similar, because that's the other issue, is even when you have a pair, you think you have a pair of sales, you realize, well, this one had a pool and this one was renovated and this one wasn't, but ideally, what you find is called a paired sales, where you have two very similar properties that sell in a very close time frame, and then you can figure out your spread. Short of that, you're guesstimating. But our model is adding for the land size, because the first layer, our model builds value like a cake. The first layer is the land, that's the base of your cake, that's the cookie crust, right? And then it's adding layer per layer. So it's adding for the land size, but it's subtracting for the negative influences. Right, so that's kind of how it operates, and when I look at this, I call it a wash.
All right, I thank you.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yes, proceed.
Sorry, Eric, I just came up with a question. So regarding your COM3, the location of your COM3, and I look at on your map. What would you say? Would you agree on it that it is in a better location than 7-Eleven Park, even though they are closer? I understand that they are closer, but what would your comment be? Or
Well, my comment's simple, all three of the comparables are in a better location than the subject, there's no doubt about that, but they have half the land size. So we're asking the same question in a different way, Ashar.
I just wanted to know about
yeah.
the location, because
So-
one is on a
Yeah,
very
they're-
busy corner, one is
Yeah.
on the core of the Park Boulevard between houses.
Yeah,
So-
and once again, it's been factored, the bad location is being factored in into our model's value. And yeah, they're all three of them are in better locations. Right? But you got half the land, so half the land to work with, half the land to play on and enjoy, and half the land to build your pool and your pool room and all the other stuff you want. So it's a toss up. I wish there were more vacant land sales in the area that I could, oddly enough, in Old Tuxedo, I could talk all day long about land sales. Because the neighborhood's older and it's gotten to the point now where the bulldozer's coming in, so I can tell you off the top of my head, I know every land sale in that neighborhood, but as far as South Tuxedo, very few. A handful, and none on a lot that I know of on a lot that size on a basic corner. But when you find it, you call me, we'll talk about
Definitely.
it.
I'm done. That's all my
Alright.
questions. Thank
If you'd
you.
like to give us your brief.
Yeah, please. So our subject property, 711 Park Boulevard. Built in 1988, it's a two-story. It has a living area of 4,835 square feet and it sits on a lot size of 20,148 square feet. This property has an unfinished basement. And is located on a busy corner of Park Boulevard South and Taylor Avenue. I have inspected this property recently, a couple of months ago, and I can confirm that there have not been made any renovations to the property, except what Eric has provided mentioned to the bathrooms. The property is in well-kept condition. And is the property is in well-kept condition and is located on the external corner of Park Boulevard and Taylor Avenue. The 2025 assessment is at 1,415,000. Our requested assessment is at 1,300,000. And now I'll request the board to please move on to page number 5. On page number 8, where I have presented my comparables. Please let me know when you guys are on page 8. You guys are on page 8. So I've used 4 comparables, and I've tried my best to use comparables that are very close to the subject in terms of the location, in terms of the living area, year build, and site influences as well. My first comp, 2210 West Taylor Boulevard. It is built in 1989. It has a living area of 4,010 square feet. It has a fully finished basement, double detached garage, and it sits on a lot size of 15,316 square feet, which is closer to our subject property. And it has side influences of bus route to be on a bus route, medium traffic, and it sits on a pond adjacent land as well. So it has 2 of the 3 side influences that our subject has. The third side influence that it has is a very positive influence of being on pond adjacent land. The property was sold in October of 2022 for 900,000 at. And then the time adjusted sale price I have highlighted and I left it blank over there because I was not able to find it, so I had to calculate it myself. And I've used the same way the price per square time adjusted price was calculated for my second comp. These both were sold at the same time in the same month, same year. So I've used a 3.8% downward adjustment for our first comparable 2210 West Taylor Boulevard, and I've come up with a time adjusted sale price of 866,000. Which is a 3.8% downward adjustment, and it has and the same 3.8% downward adjustment is also on comparable 2 as well. Moving on my second comp, actually, before I move on my second comp, I would request the board if they can move on to page number 10. On page number 10, I have a map showing the 2 properties. On page 10. So these are the 2 properties. They both have exposure to Taylor Avenue. And they both are very close to each other. They are 350 meters apart, as you can see on the map over here. And the property, if you scroll down to to the second page, to the next page on page 11, you can see the pictures of the inside of the property. It is in, again, a very decent condition. And I have inspected our subject property. I do not have the pictures over here for the subject property, but I can confirm that the subject property and 2210 West Taylor looks very similar to each other. Now I will move back on to my second comparable. Sorry, I would request the board to move back on page number 8. My second com is 751 Park Boulevard South, which is on the same street, but on the other corner of Park Boulevard South. It is built in 1996, about 8 years after our subject. It has a 4,200 square feet of living area, which is comparatively very closer to our subject property or what we have looked so far for our subject. It has a fully finished basement compared to our subject, which has an unfinished basement. If I'm further down and look at the lot sizes, our subject and 751 Park Boulevard, they both have almost identical lot sizes. They both are 20,000 square feet. One is, COM 2 is 20,412. Our subject is 20,148. They both are very identical. And our COM 2 is also on external corner. So as I mentioned, that it is on the other side of Park Boulevard. But it is, and it has another side influence of community mailbox, which is somewhat, again, a negative influence, but not as negative as to be on a bus route and have the medium traffic. This property was sold in October 22 for 1.7 million, time adjusted to 1,635,000. Now I will talk about the quality build and the condition of this property, and I would request the board just to first look at the map of the property, which is on page number 12. This property has recently sold. The pictures are not provided on the with the listing because it was said that the realtors were not willing to provide the pictures for this property, but there was a description of the property, and I can read the description of this property, which would tell us that this property has significantly gone under renovations and has been upgraded. If the board allows me, I can read it over here for this property.
Yeah, you can proceed.
So on the listing, MLS listing, it was mentioned that this is an extensively professionally remodeled, thoroughly contemporary house with 4,300 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. The front foyer immediately envelopes you with an exciting plethora of dramatic staircases, extra high ceilings, lots of glass finishes, unique ceramics, many heated, rare rift cut woods, custom fireplaces, premium chattels, together with gourmet kitchen with massive island, bridge to a Hollywood master suite, upper and lower dens, and a stunning sunroom with another fireplace that leads to a resort style oversized oversized house basement with pool, hot tub, barbecue area, and extensive decking. It comes with an extraordinary 1,700 square feet private entry lower level suite, which has a full kitchen, second laundry, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Last but not least, the garage will accommodate 8 cars. So I feel like this property definitely needs a very significant downward adjustment based on the quality build and the finishes this has to bring it down to our subject property. I have not made any quantitative adjustments on my brief over here, but I think the board would agree, or the board and decide this, that definitely there needs to be very significant sort of adjustments made. If you would ask me what number of, or by what amount or dollar amount I would make the adjustments. Again, just by looking at the description over here, I think there needs to be about $400,000 to $500,000 of adjustments made to bring it down to the same quality build as our subject. That is my second com. Moving ahead, I'll go to my third com, which is 74. I'm back on page number 8, by the way. Which is 74 Hopwood Drive. It's again a 2-story, built in 1988, same year as our subject. It has living area of 33,252, relatively a lower living area. It has a fully finished basement compared to our subject, which is unfinished. And it sits on a lot size of 10,250 square feet. It does not have any of the site influences that our subject has. It was sold on September 27th of 2021 for 39,000 at and a time adjusted sale price comes to 928,700. I will move to my COM 4, which is 34 Hopwood Drive, built in 1986. And it has a living area of 3,165 square feet. It has a partially finished basement. Again, I mean, it has a very smaller lot size as well, 9,860 square feet. It was sold in June of 2021 for 850,000. I could not find the time adjusted sale price of this as well, but both of them are on Hopwood, both of these properties were sold 3 months apart. So I will let the board decide on the time adjusted sale price of this. According to me, it would be somewhere around, again, there would be a downward adjustment for this as well, looking at COM 3's time adjusted. So I would say it would be somewhere around 820 to 830,000. So these are my 4 comps that I provided. Out of the 4 comps, I would say that comp 1 and comp 2 would be my strongest comp or the closest comp that I have given a lot of weightage because of the living area, the lot sizes, and because they share very similar site influences as well. I do have pictures for all the 4 comps if the board would want to look at them. And that is all for me. If there are any questions?
Yeah, just questions regarding, so your comparables on 74 Hopwood and 34 Hopwood. Substantial size adjustments be required. Do you have any idea how much you would adjust for that? I mean, there are more than 1,000.
Yes, I do agree. There's a huge adjustment required for those 2. That's why I think I mentioned that. I mean, my closest comp and the strongest comps would be comp 1 and comp 2, comp 3 and comp 4. I'm just using to support them. But I don't know in terms of, I mean, if like what quantitative adjustment needs to be made over there, 200,000 or 200,000 or 300,000. I don't know that. It's an open market. I don't know how much adjustment we can make or how much it would sell for. But my strongest comps for this one would be comp 1 and comp 2, which are very similar. But sorry to answer your question, I would not know that how much of an adjustment that would be needed overall in terms of the house for those. But I was not only looking at the living area for those 2 comps. For the ones on Hopwood, I was also looking. Yes, there needs to be adjustment made for the living area and for the lot sizes, but especially for comp 4, I thought, I mean, it has a partially finished basement, so it was closer to our subject in terms of one characteristic at least. So that were my reasons for using those 2 comps. But I have put a lot of weightage on comp 1 and comp 2.
That's all my questions, thank you.
Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions for the applicant?
Just wondered, the comparable 2 that you've got doesn't look like it has a garage, is that correct?
It does have a garage, it's just that it is not there on the pictures. On the MLS listing, the pictures were not provided. It was mentioned on the listing that that they did not wanted the pictures to be out. But on the description, it does mention that there is a garage that can fit up to 8 cars.
Okay, thank you.
No, I have no question.
I also have questions. And at this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Mr. Goche, you would give us your brief on 6 Dumfries Place, please.
The subject property is roll number 10003339200, commonly referred to as 6 Dumfries Place, located in South Tuxedo. It's a 2-story single-family home built in 1990. We have no effective age on the dwelling. We have a living area of 3,591 square feet, full basement with about 1,000 square feet of basement finish. We have 3 full baths, 2 half baths, 2 extra showers. We have central air conditioning present, 1 fireplace, a multiple attached garage, no detached garages. It does have an in-ground pool. We have no sunrooms. On a fairly standard piece of land, it's 10,500 square feet a lot. Our 2025 assessed value is pegged at 1,362,000. Today, I'm presenting 4 comparables, all located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo, all 2-story, single-family homes built in the 80s and 90s. No substantial effective ages on any of the comparables, so most of them are fairly dated. Comp 3 has a little bit of effective age, so it's had some TLC that we know of. Living area range is pretty tight here, so I didn't provide any adjustments because the living area was in fairly tight range. We've got 3,208 at the low end and 3,866 at the high end. We have full basements. No comp 1 has a part basement as well, so probably a crawl space addition or something like that. Basement finish that varies between 889 square feet at the low end and 1,420 at the high end. We've got full baths that range between 2 and 3, half baths range between 1 and 2, extra showers range between 2 and 3, central AC present in all of them. Node comps 1 and 2 have 2 fireplaces, built-in garages across the board. We have no detached garages. As far as pools are concerned, comps 2 and 3 did not have a pool, so an adjustment was provided for that. No sunrooms, land fairly consistent, although Park Boulevard South, the location and the lot size, I did provide an adjustment there because 13,851 square feet of land and a little bit better location. Now, comp number 4 also had a park and a premium location on Kerrs Lake. So an adjustment was provided there for the superior location. Comps took place, or the sales took place between 2021, or sorry, November 2020, so I have an older one here, and in 2022, so that's the date range. We've got sale prices that range between 1.230 and a million, and at the high end I've got 1,398,000, giving an all-encompassing price per square foot range between 350 at the low end and 436 at the high end. Time adjusted sale prices range between 1,252,000 at the low end and 1,433,000 at the high end. Once you apply the adjustments for basement finish, location, pools, land size, coming in at a fairly tight range, which I like to see, and that's the ranges between 1,282,000 at the low end and 1,324,000 at the high end. My recommendation is actually to reduce the 2025 assessed value to 1.3 million, as supported by the adjusted comparable sales. Just to note, I did request a sales questionnaire. The property did recently sell post-reference, but the Act states current condition can be assessed on our reference date. I did not receive anything back, so I requested that on April 15th. So my assumption that's in our brief here, or in my brief, is that kind of the property is in average to good condition, because I wasn't provided with any info in that regard. Is there any questions at all?
Yes,
Sorry, I'm just gonna stop right there. Are you accepting the recommendation?
no, respectfully, we don't really.
Okay. You'd like to receive that?
Okay, Mr. Assessor, my first question would be on your comp 1, 694 Park Boulevard. Would you agree that, properties on Park Boulevard relatively sell for a premium price or a higher price than, and Park Boulevard itself is considered a superior street or prestigious street compared to other streets or compared to streets?
Always caution with that. Typically, I would say yes, the answer to that, but I would refer to the map on this one. So what happens is there's locations on park that are across a beautiful park. And there's some that are not. You'll notice comparable number one, if you refer to my map. It's kind of a mid-block and would be, to me, comparable to a lot of the other comparable sales, I guess. So it does have the park name, but not necessarily the park influence. So there is a variation depending on where on the park. So, yeah. I did provide an adjustment though for land size, because it does have about 30% more land, and when you're dealing with a larger dwelling like that, it can make a difference for sure.
Okay, house coming to your land adjustment, again, it's 13, almost 14, or let's say 13,850 square feet of land on Park Boulevard, which is again a superior street. I feel like adjustment of 50,000 is again relatively very low compared to this comp being on Park Boulevard, and then, you know, when we're comparing it to the property on a Dumfries, even though these streets are closer, and then you've mentioned that our subjects location on Park is not what a superior or an ideal location on Park would be, but I still feel like that, you know, property, our comp is still on Park Boulevard. And it would create that perception or a market value out there in the market that it is on Park, so it is definitely superior to other streets or other properties. I'll move on to my second question.
Was that a question? I'm sure.
That was, sorry, it was more of a statement.
I agree that park has a.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for
Park-
that.
No, it's okay. I agree that park has a name to it, and it does hold value as far as like, I live on Park Boulevard versus Dump Park, for example. I agree with that.
Okay, my second question would be regarding comp 4. So this property is located on Park. Were you not able to find any other closer comps when it comes to land influences? Because I mean, I think we both would agree, or it is out there that, you know, properties that are having a park influences, they relatively sell for a much higher prices than properties not on park.
But I mean, I'll refer to the map, and subject property 6 Dumfries is located on a nice quiet cul-de-sac. That's a tough spot to find in Tuxedo, so. That's also, people also pay a premium for that. And like I said, I hit it pretty, like, you know, Kerrs Lake, speaking of column number 4, Kerrs Lake. We're gonna speak about streets that have, you know, a value to the name. I mean, Kerrs Lake definitely is one of those streets, so. It wasn't on the pond, obviously, but it does have a parking influence, so I hit it with $100,000 adjustment. Which I thought was fair, because it is on a busier corner as well, so there's traffic there, but a park and a premium street name and location, so. I thought I was fair with that. But yeah, definitely to answer your question again, park. You know, when you've got your listing and it says such and such Park Avenue or Wellington Street, like these streets definitely have you know, they'll raise eyebrows and people will come and look or map it out, but not every address on Park holds the same value for sure.
Okay, but if I look at your map, 49 Kerrs Lake, it's relatively very closer to the park though, correct? Like that's why it has an influence. on the
Yeah,
park.
so do you see that weird little strip of land behind it? It's kind of a triangle, weird little shape there, so it's on the corner of Park Place West, so that's the feeder street coming in. So you've got the traffic there, but you're also backing on a very thin strip of land, and you don't really have, you're not backing on the pond or anything like that, but you've got kind of a weird awkward view and some traffic, so. It's not premium Kerrs Lake, but or premium Dumbarton, but yeah, I guess.
And that's all my question for.
Thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions?
No, nothing for me, thank you.
Yes.
Just an interest question, what is that little strip of land behind?
It's a park.
It is actually a little park.
Yeah, so people can come behind there, hang out and go access the lake. I think the idea was to provide some lake point accesses.
Oh,
So if you look at the map, you really can't access Kerrs Lake unless you spend a few $1 million. So I think the idea was to give people a little bit of access here. I believe there's a park bench or something there. You can watch. launch your canoe. See how well that goes, but yeah.
No problem.
Yeah,
Okay, you did not inspect this property.
I did not know.
I
I attempted to get information on on a very recent sale that we're not going to discuss here today, but just to get an idea of current condition.
Which would be your best comparable?
Again, I gotta do some math here, but I always. The answer to that will always be the one with the least amount of adjustments usually,
Yeah,
right? So, I mean, comps 3 and comps 1 don't have a ton of adjustments. Particularly if I look at comp 1, for example, you got $2,500 for a second fireplace. 50K on the land, and then comp 3 even better. To me is basement finish is a very, to me, an easy adjustment to make. So you got 9K there and then a pool. I mean, your cost to put in a new pool is about 100, 120, but I typically adjust 60 because most pools need some sort of maintenance and that sort of thing. So 50% depreciation is kind of assumed in that 60K adjustment. So that's why I came in with a recommendation at 1.3. I felt like I had a really tight range here, and that makes me even more confident that our value is a smidge high, and then it should be at 1.3.
thank you. That's all my questions. If you would like to proceed, Mr. Brady.
Okay, so I'll start on page number 2. Our subject property 6 Dumfries Place, built in 1990, it's a 2-story, it has a living area of 3,591 square feet, and it sits on a lot size of 10,508 square feet. The 2025 realty assessment comes in at 1,362,000, and today we are requesting the board for 1,150,000. I was not able to inspect that property. If the board would please move to page number 8. I have provided my comps over there. Please let me know when the board is on page number 8, and then I'll go over my comps. So I have 5 comps over here that I'm using for our subject property 6 Dumfries Place. All these comps are within the South Tuxedo neighborhood. All of them are 2-story, and they have a very tight and a very close living area to our subject property. Comp 174 Hopwood Drive has a living area of 33,253 square foot. It has a lot size of 10,250 square foot, which again is very similar to our subject property. Property was sold in December of 2021 for 939,000. And after the city's time adjusted, we come to a sale price of 928,700 square feet, or price per square foot of $285.49. My comp 2 is on Kerslake Drive, 36 Kerslake Drive. It is again built at the same time our subject property. It is very close in terms of living area to our subject property. It has 3,262 square feet of living area compared to our subject 3,591. And talking about the lot size, again, it's very similar to our subject at 9,410 square feet as well. This property does not have any side influences. It is not on park, so it is again a relatively a closer comp to our subject property 6 Dumfries Place, and we can see that this property was sold on August 22 for 998,000, or city's time adjusted sale price 945,100, which comes up to $289.73 price per square foot. My third comp is 22 Dumbarton. Again, built in 1990, same year as our subject, very close to our subject's living area, a little higher, 33,866 compared to 3,591. And then this property, I would like to mention, yes, that this property does not have a pool. But it does have a very similar lot size, just if I round it up, it's just 400 square feet larger than our subject. This property was sold in July of 22 for 1,355,000, or a time adjusted sale price of $1,272,000 and 300, or a time adjusted sale price of $329.10. My fourth com is 38 Billingham. It's very similar year built, 1989, very similar living area, 3,436. This property does not have a pool. And it is, again, it does have a very similar lot size, a little smaller at 9,123 compared to our subject's 10,508. Property was sold in September 21 for 1,230,000, or a time adjusted sale price of $1,252,100, and it comes at a sale price per square foot of $364.41. My fifth com is 48 Yearsley Place, built a little after our subject in 1995. A little smaller than the subject at 3,093 square feet. It does not have a pool. It has a little larger lot size at 13,285 square feet. It does it sits on an external corner of the street. Property was sold in September 22 at one, I would round it off to, and I would say it was sold for 1 million. Time adjusted, city's time adjusted sale price comes to 954,000, or price per square foot of $308.44. I have provided maps of all the 5 properties below to our subject property. According to me, the strongest comps would be 36 Curse Lake Drive, which is in very close proximity to our subject. It is about 500 meters closer to our subject. My second most closest comp, or a strong comp, would be 74 Hopwood. If you look at the pictures of 74 Hopwood, it has received significant renovations by looking at the pictures, and there would be some sort of adjustment required for the finishes of 74 Hopwood. And that is all for me.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Merchant?
No, good, thank
Ms. Redmond, any questions?
No questions for me, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and the adjuster or the assessor was mentioning, his comps that, you believe that park has a certain level of cachet to the name. I'm just looking at the maps, and Dumfries, like, it is on a quiet cul-de-sac. Do you feel that has any sort of also inherent value, rather than being on a like it's a dead end cul-de-sac rather than on a main street?
So I would, in my experience, I have heard, this is from my experience, I have heard that, properties on Park Boulevard, or whenever a property on Park Boulevard comes up, or just the name Park Boulevard comes up, it catches the eyes, but whenever Dumfries comes up, it has never caught my attention or my eyes.
Okay.
So that is what I would say, this is based on my judgment, yes.
And then my other question was with comps 1 and 2 that you have, they're approximately the living area is probably 300 square feet less. The influence of that on the price, do you feel that is there a downward influence on the price on that?
There would definitely be a downward influence of that on the price, and if you look at their sale prices, both these properties have sold for $928 and $945 respectively, and we have taken that into consideration. And if you look at our requested value, which is $1,150,000, so I think that justifies for the 300 square feet of difference compared to our subject.
Thank you.
Don't know if I heard you correctly. Did you say you did not inspect?
Yes, I did not inspect this property.
Okay. And you've used the same comparable as the assessor, I believe, 38 Gillingham?
And 2200 Dunbar.
Yeah.
Two of them, yes.
So I guess I'm gonna ask you why your number on 38 Gillingham is different to the assessors. This time adjusted.
Time adjusted. Okay, let me look at the assessor. I am using my time adjusted sale prices are coming right out of the city's sales books. But I will
No,
look
they're
at,
the same. For 38 Billingham, we have 1,252,000, and so does the chart here. He's got the $100. I round.
Right.
I don't do hundreds. All my numbers are rounded, by the way.
Okay, sorry, but I'm looking at,
oh, I see, I think you are looking at the time,
Yeah,
the adjustment.
yeah,
So Mr. Assessor has adjusted the price,
right.
keeping in mind that there was no pool. I have not adjusted the price
Okay.
for the pool. According to me, it is not, I mean, there's a market out for a pool. There are a group of people that does need a pool and would love to have a pool, but then again, there's another group of people for whom they might not need a pool. So they might see the pool as a liability because now they have to fill up that land to use it as their backyard or something. So according to me, a pool not always adds up the value to the property. That's why I have not adjusted 60,000 for that.
Okay. Thank you, that is all my questions. We'll move on to 14, Doug, please.
If you could wait and give me this quick 1 minute. I'm ready.
Mr. Gotcha.
So the subject property is roll number 1000333960, commonly referred to as 14 Dumfries Place. Located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo, it's a two-story, single-family home built in 1989. It's in fairly original condition because we have the effective age at 1989, as far as we're aware. Living area is 2,534 square feet, has a full basement with basement finish. We have 2 full baths, 2 half baths, an extra shower, central AC, 1 fireplace, a multiple attached garage, no detached garages, no pools, no sunrooms. It's located on a fairly standard plot of land for the area, 11,526 square feet. Our 2025 assessed value is pegged at 890,000. Today I'm presenting 4 comparable sales, all in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo. All 2-story single-family homes built in the late 80s to late 90s. None have experienced major renovations. Note that COM4 does have a little bit of effective age, so it has received some updates. Living area is pretty tight range as well. 2,506 square feet on the low end and 2,634 at the high end. All have full basements, all have basement finish except comparable number 4, note does not have basement finish. We've got 2 full baths across the board, half baths range between 1 and 2, showers range between 0 and 3. Central AC is present in all the comparables. All have 1 fireplace. All have a multiple attached garage, no detached garages, no pools, no sunroofs, pretty clean comps altogether. Land fairly consistent, but note that comparable number 2 does have some negative bus routes and traffic influences, so you may want to refer to the map on that one. Sales took place in 2021 and 2022. Sale prices range between 823 at the low end and 980 at the high end, giving us a all-encompassing price per square foot range between 321 at the low end and 377 at the high end. Time adjusted sale price, we can bring these up to our April 1st, 2023 valuation date. The range there is between $865 at the low end and $943 at the high end. The time adjusted price per square foot range at the low end, 329 a square foot, and at the high end, 363 a square foot. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value as supported by the comparable sales. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Yes, I do have. So that's a quick question for you. For all your four comps, have you looked at the interior photos of these four comps?
I'm pretty sure I did on these ones, 70 Hopwood. I'm trying to remember now, like I get scrambled after a while when I looked at so many. But I typically comb through the MLS and look at the sales to make sure they're somewhat similar to the subject. Okay, they're not always perfect.
I looked at the pictures. I mean, I got a chance to look at the pictures for 194 Park Place. The
Yeah.
property has gone extensive renos.
Okay,
It has been custom built, upgraded significantly superior to our subject. I just wanted to put this out over here for the board as well. 194 Park Place, which is COM2, was sold in 2021. There's a listing on MLS for that property and this property, and the picture when you look at that.
Do you want to present this then when we keep on brief?
So yeah, that is all my question was.
okay.
Thank you. Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions to the assessor?
Just on comp 4, there's no adjustment done for the unfinished basement.
Yeah, so typically, if you wanted a typical basement finish adjustment, give you that. So we have 700 square feet of basement finish. Times that by 30. 21,000. So you could do a plus, so that property would have sold for 21K more had it had 700 square feet of basement, which in theory. So it would be appropriate. I didn't do adjustments, and once again, I don't adjust everything on every brief, especially when I have a set of fairly clean comps like this. I tend to not start splitting hairs, so there's a lot of work.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, so 21K upward adjustment would be warranted on that one.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
I have questions.
Also have no questions at this time. You'd like to proceed with the brief?
Our subject property, 14 Dumfries Place, it was built in 1989. It's a 2-story property. It has a living area of 2,534 square feet, and it sits on a lot size of 11,526 square feet. Property, at 2025, property is assessed at 890,000. Our requested assessment today, at the board is 850,000. I would like to mention that I was not able to inspect this property. If we move down to page number 8, I would go over my comparables. So I have 5 comparables over here. All of them are located in the South Tuxedo neighborhood and are relatively closer in the year built and the living area to our subject property. My first comp is 2215 West Taylor Boulevard. It is built in 1990. Our subject is built in 1989, so they are very close to year built. The living area is 2,756 square feet. Again, very similar to our subject. It sits on a lot size of 10,057 square feet. Our subject is 11,526 square feet, just a little larger than our smaller than our subject property. And it has this negative side influences of having on a medium having an influence of medium traffic and bus route. This property was sold in November 2022 for 820,000. Time adjusted to $794,600, and at a price per square foot of $288.32. The second comp that I'm looking at is 71 Coleraine Crescents. It was built in 1986. It has a living area of 2,318 square feet, very close to our subject. It has a finished basement. It again does not have a pool. It does not have any influences on the land compared to our subject. It sits on a lot size of 9,824. And this property was sold in November 2021 for 813,000. Time adjusted, it comes to $812,200 or price per square foot at $350. My third comp is 105 Hopwood Drive. This was built in 1987. It has a living area very similar to our subject property at 2,562 square feet. It also has a finished basement. I would also like to note that this property does have a pool over with it. And it sits on a lot size of 9,610 square feet. It does not have any side influences like our subject property as well. This property was sold in July of 2021 for 855,000 or a time adjusted sale price of $888,300 or price per square foot of $346.72. My fourth comp would be 34 Ambleside Boulevard. Again, built in 1991, very similar to our subject. It has a living area of 2,634 square feet, very close and very similar to our subject. Finished basement, it sits on a lot size of 10,477 square feet. Does not have any side influences. This property was sold in September of 2021 for 850,000. Time adjusted to 865,300 or at a price per square foot of $328.51. My fifth comp would be 44 Stanford Bay. This property was built in 1977, a little older than our subject. It does have a finished basement. And it sits on a lot size of 10,200 square feet. It has a side influence to be on the internal corner. This property was sold in August 2021 for 780,000 or a time adjusted sale price of $801,800 or $325.14 per square foot. These are all my comps that I provided, and again, we request the board for an assessment of $850,000 for this property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roche, any questions?
I do. So we discussed how Park Boulevard has a positive connotation to it. Would you agree that maybe West Taylor would have a bit of a negative connotation if you're marketing property West Taylor, because it's a busy street?
I would agree with that. With the side influences, I would agree that it would be a little, or yes, it would have some negative influence to that.
Okay, that's it. That's my only question.
Thank you. Ms. Redmond, any questions to the applicant?
No, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
No questions.
So, comparable 44 Stanford Bay. Built in 77. I'm just wondering why you would include this as a comparable.
Fine. So I was not only looking at the age of the properties, I was also looking at the living area and the lot sizes. This property does share a very similar lot size, not exactly close to our subjects 11,500, but quite similar to our subjects, and was very similar to the living in terms of living area. That's why I decided to use it over there as well. But if the board would want to neglect it or ignore it, that is board's decision.
Okay.
But that was my
All right, thank you. What would be your best comparable?
best
What do you feel is?
So what I did for the value that I asked, I'll go over it. I mean, I've taken the average of the 5 properties prices and the time adjusted sale price, because I thought in my opinion, when I was looking at every characteristics of these five comps. If in terms of a living area, one property was a bit superior, then in terms of the lot size, one property was a little inferior. So if you would still want me to, give you the best comps, I would say the best comps would be 105 Hopwood. And then 2215 West Taylor, but it has negative side influences, so there needs to be an adjustment for that as well, definitely. And then I would say 34 Ambleside would also be a closer comp.
And did you inspect this property?
I did not inspect it.
Thank you, that's all my questions. We'll move on to present. Whenever you are ready.
The roll number is 1000455230, commonly referred to as 2 Driscoll Crescent. It's located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo. It's a 2-story single-family home built in 1976. I have the effective age as 1985. I've added a condition of average after reviewing the comps to that. Living area, I've got 2,950 square feet. I have a full basement. I've added the amount of basement finish here because it is substantially lower than most comparables in the area at 552 square feet. Full baths, there are 2 half baths, there are 2 showers, there are extra showers, there are 2. Central AC is present, 1 fireplace, an attached multiple garage, no detached garages. It does have an in-ground pool. It does have a sunroom, which I believe I missed here, but okay. Lot size is 10,363 square feet, located on an external corner. 2025 assessed value is pegged at 1,024,000. Today I'm presenting 4 comparables. They're all located in South Tuxedo. They're all 2-story single-family homes built in the late 70s to mid 80s. They do have, some of them have effective age on them that ranges between 1989 and 2006. Notes that comps 2 and 3, particularly comp 2, had extensive renovations, provided an adjustment to bring that to par with the subject, as well as comp 3. The square footage, fairly tight range for the first 3 comp, but notice that the 4th comparable is at 2394 square feet, quite a bit smaller than the subject. Adjustment has been provided for that deficiency. Full basements across the board. Adjustments were made for the fact that the comparables have, most of them have quite a bit more square footage than the subject. Full baths range between 1 and 2, half baths range between 2 and 3. Extra showers range between 2 and 3. They all have central AC, all have 1 fireplace, all have a multiple or built-in attached garage. None have detached garages. Comps 1, 2, and 3 do not have a pool, so adjustments were provided for that. I did miss a sunroom that the subject has, so typically you would adjust, typically on a sunroom, I'm looking at adjusting about $70 a square foot upwards, so the comps would have sold for more had they had sunroom present. We'll try to give some insight on that in a second. Well, let's look here. What do we have for sunroom? We've got 192 square feet. 192. About a 13K positive adjustment would be warranted on the comparables for the sunroom that I missed. But we'll leave that aside. Land is fairly consistent at in the 9,000 to low 9s to high 9,000 square foot range, so pretty similar to subject property. Sales took place in 2021 and 2022. Sale prices range between $1 million and at the high end $1,250,000. translating to an all-encompassing global price per square foot range of 341 at the low end per square foot to 455 per square foot. Time adjusted sale prices. They range between 932 at the low end and 1,285,000 at the high end. Once adjustments are applied, I had a range of 984 at the low end and 1,135,000. If you want to apply an adjustment for the sunroom, then those values will go up about 13K a piece. Apologize for missing that. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value of 1,024,000 as supported by the comparable sales. Are there any questions at all?
Yes. For 50, column number 315 Driscoll, were you able to have a look at the interior photos of that property?
I did, yeah, so. Like I said, after looking at many of them scrambled, but at the time when I reviewed it. I felt like 100,000, it was superior than the subject property. Just based on the information we have, the permits we have, I kind of pegged the subject property as average condition and this one at good, and whereas my comp 2 at excellent. So I figured with 100K, you could bring it up to snuff, like by dropping the value 100K on that one, it would bring it up to snuff with the subject property.
Okay, there is one correction that I'm looking over here in your brief. Would you want me to point it out right now, or do I do that when I'm presenting?
No, you can go ahead.
Yes.
And we'll do the first
So
one.
it says that our subject has a full basement. I would like to point that out. It does not have a full basement.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
so can you elaborate on that, or?
I have inspected this property and I've talked to the owner. It does not have a full basement. This property, I think about 15 to, he was mentioning to me about 15 or 20 years ago, this property went under some extension.
Okay,
And the basement was not extended. So this property, even though under city's record, it says full basement,
Yeah.
it does not have a full basement.
okay, so what we'll do here is check, yeah, we could discuss this at a later time, but the basement area that we have is 920 square feet. And the basement finish area, we have 552. And then I do have a large additional area, so this would be like on a crawl space. So this gets valued differently in our model, so we've got 1,319, so it looks like this is correct. What's not correct is, so the data is correct, the raw data is correct, but what's not correct is we have another field where we indicate the basement type. It should not have an impact on our model's value because the model is driving the value on the additional area, which we put on crawl space. Versus the basement area, so, but I will update that in our records, thank you for pointing that out. You'll notice on other briefs, you saw full and part, that's because there's a crawl space area, but thanks for pointing that out.
Okay, my next question would be regarding comp 1. You have adjusted 16,000 for the finished basement for about 600 square feet, I would say.
Yeah, typically I use 30, I think.
Okay.
So get
I
that
guess one.
550. Let's make sure I did my math. I told you before, I'm not very good at math. You've pointed out some math mistakes in the past. It wasn't my strong point in school, but I rely on calculators. So 532 times 30. And I round, right? So I'm coming up with 15,960, and I told you guys before, I always round. So 16K should be about accurate at $30 a square foot for basement.
Okay, just a question on that. How are you coming up with the number of 30 per square foot for the finished basements? Just one.
Couple different ways, cost, depreciation. So kind of an assumed depreciation, so your cost to finish a standard base right now is about $50 a square foot. If you want to say they're 20-30% depreciated, 40% depreciated, then you're coming into that 30-ish mark. That's one way to do it. Once in a while, if I'm bored and I have spare time, which doesn't happen quite often, you can do paired sales analysis. So you can look at a house in Windsor Park and say, hey, these two bungalows are side by side. They sold like 2 weeks apart and everything is similar, other than one had a basement finish, one didn't. So paired sales analysis. I have the luxury of poking around in our model. So our model's taking thousands of data points and coming up with values for So remember, our model's building a cake, and part of that cake is basement finish. So I can poke around in there and look and see what it's giving me for a value, so it's an added tool that I consult and use, but. I wouldn't be making a $30 a square foot adjustment on brand new construction with a walkout basement. You'll notice if we come across those, it'll be quite different, but in these particular cases, a dated basement. It's generally my go-to numbers, about $30.
That's all my questions.
Ms. Redmond, any questions?
The only question I might have is which comp you feel is the most close to the subject property?
This is for me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Question.
More than that.
You guys already know, you guys already know my answer to this, but
I know,
and I also want to reiterate that one of the big no-nos, when you go through all these years of appraisal courses, Ashar knows this, it's going through this stuff too. They tell you never hang your hat on one comp. That's a huge mistake.
Right.
Come up with a range of an adjusted range, and within that range, figure out where your subject should be. That's the proper, what they call the reconciliation method. To say this house is worth this house because this is the best comp is honestly a mistake. But if you're gonna ask me what the best comp is, I'll say the same thing I've said before, the one that requires the least amount of adjustment. Now you're asking me to do math, and I'm not good at math, but you guys are better than me at math. So the one requiring the least amount of adjustment would be technically the most comparable to the subject. Which one is that?
Comp one, I think.
So that's 16. Comp one looks pretty plain. And it's also average condition, so I guess I would say comp one. If you were trying to hang your hat on one, but I don't like doing that. I like having a range. And I also mentioned earlier, when I see one comp on the low end or the high end, I try to pay less attention to any outliers. So if I have a tight range, I'm very happy with that. I'm very confident. Otherwise, anywhere in that range and I'm happy. So yeah, my range is 984, but remember we have that 13K adjustment, so that turns into we got 997, the low end. Anywhere between there and 1.1. Yeah, it's getting late in the day, sorry.
that's fine, it's okay.
Anyways, in that range, if anyone said the house is worth whatever and it's in my range of adjusted comps, I'm usually like, yeah, makes sense. You do get into cases where the range is wild and it happens, and that's unfortunate when that happens. Then I refer to a cost approach when I look at other ways, see if I can determine the value in a different method. I will present those once in a while to the board, but very rarely.
Thank you.
You had talked about comp 3 that you know what the upgrades were there, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, so that one there, you're asking me the details.
Well,
It was like kitchen, like it had like updated kitchen and flooring and that sort of thing, and I felt like, it requires. You'd have to spend about 100K to bring that one to par with what we know about this.
And those upgrades were done recently?
So we have 10 years effective age, so
Yeah.
that tells me, one of our staff reviewed it. Typically, this happens when we review a sale, so we'll review sales that happen on MLS. And say, okay, well, we have a calculator that can estimate certain upgrades, how old those upgrades were, so I can tell you. It's actually quite interesting how it's set up, but basically the calculator says a kitchen is worth X of the total value of the dwelling. Okay, a bathroom is worth X of the total value of the dwellings, but based on what year it was updated, we can kind of mathematically figure out stuff. Now, the problem is we don't have necessarily perfect data, as Mr. Ashar pointed out on the previous one, where we have possibly the wrong effective age. So our data is not 100% clean. I wish it was, but I'd be lying to you if I told you it was perfect, right? We've got houses that are renovated out there that don't sell, that we don't know about, they never pulled permits, so we don't know they're renovated. So it could be your neighbor's house and you're wondering why we're assessed so low, but it happens. So if the data is clean and if we have reviewed it, usually our effective age is accurate. Other than that, yeah, it's basically looking at it based on the upgrades. When I look at it and I'm doing a manual review of things, I basically say, okay, well, my comp is dated. I try to find dated, or my subject's dated, and I try to find dated comps that are very similar, and if there's no adjustment required, that's even better. But in certain cases, you gotta make adjustments because this one, well, it's very similar, except the bathrooms were all redone. There's 4 bathrooms in the house. Well, at 15, 20K a bathroom, it adds up. So I'll say, well, at 20K a bathroom, I need $100,000 adjustment. So
So the effective date doesn't, like 1989 does not mean that that's when the upgrades were.
correct, do not confuse. So this, and I apologize because it does appear confusing, but effective age in appraisal theory is typically you use a 70-year depreciation. Most houses, when I look at it, I say this house, if untouched after 70 years, is gonna have 0 value if it doesn't get maintained. So as it's getting maintained along the way, you need to adjust what's called the effective age. So it's not the age the house was built in, it's what condition it's in. We used to use average, good, excellent condition, but I'll tell you what the problem is with that. And the reason it's not a good tool in mass appraisal is because over time, 20 years later, if we don't service or look at the data of that property, it doesn't sell. Yeah, it was good 20 years ago, or it was excellent 20 years ago, but by now those rentals are dated. So our model is adding value to rentals done 20 years ago, and we discovered that that is not a good method. So what we've resorted to is removing that, getting rid of that system and going towards an effective age, which in mass appraisal is considered the best tool you have as long as your data is good. And we do have issues where we don't have correct data on properties, and that's unfortunate, but short of kicking everyone's doors down and seeing what they have, I mean, we go by what we know, which based on permits and based on sales. So that's it, yeah.
So you did not inspect the subject property, correct?
No, to Driscoll.
And you've given it an effective age of 85, and you said it's average,
Yeah, so basically,
so no permits pulled on this.
well, it probably is actually, because typically, so there would have been a sale or a permit that would have given us. Otherwise, if the property's never sold, there's never been a permit, you would see an effective age of 1976. In other words, we haven't touched it. We haven't tinkered with it. So that tells me right away, sometimes a homeowner or a tax agent will call us at the residential review program. And one of the questions I ask when people call in about their value is I say, tell me about your house. If they say, well, I just renovated the kitchen, I put in a new bathroom last year, all the flooring's been done, the windows have been done, then I may modify data based on what I've been told. Sometimes we send out questionnaires. Sometimes we go knocking on doors if we have staff, enough staff to do that and do data collection. So there's different methods of where we use to clean up our data, but the bulk of it comes through the permitting process. So PP&D will notify us, hey, this person is adding an addition to the house. And we'll follow up with an inspection and say, hey, this is all new, this is done, our value's off because we have this as an original house, it's no longer original. So we'll modify our effective age, which you'll see on our graphs here, so. It's
What value do you give to the pool?
typically I adjust 60K, once in a while I'll go higher than that if I see a brand new pool, brand new permit, like pool just went in like, a year or two ago.
Okay, so given this house is over 45 years old, do you really think the pool has any value?
It would depend on when the pool was added, so pools are like roofs, right? Well, I was just told every 7 years, a friend of mine is changing their liner. And I'll go back to what Ashar was saying, I have seen situations where pools don't add very much value, depends on the neighborhood it's in. And I would suggest that in Tuxedo, it adds value because it's something that can be almost expected. You'll notice that a lot of properties in that area would have a pool, but if you did it, say, in a north end property, you might have wasted $100,000 putting a pool in because it may not necessarily add the value that it would in a higher scale neighborhood. So that's, first of all, where is the pool located? Second of all, how has it been maintained? Is there a new liner, you could spend $100,000 fixing a pool. and its surroundings. So once in a while, we get a call from people, it says, you know, Eric, I've got this pool, it's, you know, it's basically a fish pond, it's gone. I can't access it to fill it. At that point, that pool becomes almost a liability. Because whoever buys the property has a choice to make. How do you fill that wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow, or how do you, where you drop in $100,000 fixing it? So it is a case by case scenario. I kind of make a general assumption when I'm doing appraisals that the pools are in working order and fairly well maintained. And I adjust about half of the value of what it would cost to put one in. And then once in a while, I'll pull up sales to see if there's a spread. During COVID, we saw a massive spread. Properties with pools were going for crazy amounts because people were locked into their backyards, and the thought of having a pool and an oasis in your backyard was very appealing in that period. So one could almost argue that during that period, the pools had more value than ever. I don't know how I feel about that, and I've been sticking to my 60K adjustment, and that's based on my research is reasonable. Unless I get information that the pool is in need of serious repair.
All right, thank you. If you'd like to present your brief.
Okay, so our subject property, 2 Driscoll Crescent, was built in 1976. It's a two-story house with a living area of 2,950 square feet, and it sits on a lot size of 10,363 square feet. It's located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo. The 2025 assessment is at $1,024,000. Today, our requested assessment at the board is $930,000. I would request the board to please move down to page number 8, where I have my comps. Oh, sorry. So for 2 Driscoll, I have used 5 comparables. All of them are in South Tuxedo neighborhood, and all of them are very close to our subject property in terms of living area, basement finish. The first comp that I have is 46 Newbury Crescent. It's a 2-story built in 1977 with a living area of 2,907 square feet. It has a finished basement. It does have a pool, and it sits on a lot size of 10,000. I'll round it out. It sits on a lot size of 10,000 square feet. Property was sold in August 21 for $790,000 at a time adjusted sale price of $812,100, or a time adjusted sale price per square foot of $279. Comp 2 is 74 Hopwood Drive, again a 2-story built in 1988 with a living area of 3,253 square foot with a finished basement. This property does have a pool as well, and it sits on a lot size of 10,250 square feet, which is very similar to our subject property. This property was sold in December of 2021 for $939,000. And at city's time adjusted sale price, it comes to $928,700 or a price per square foot of $285. My third comp is 36 Kerslake Drive, 2-story built in 1991. It has a living area of 3,262 square feet. It has a fully finished basement. It sits on a lot of 9,400, relatively a little smaller than our subject property, and it was sold in August 22 for $998,000, or at a time adjusted price of $945,000, or price per square foot of $289. My fourth comp is 635 Holland Boulevard. It's a 2-story built in 1986. With a living area very close to our subject of 2,935 square feet. It does have a finished basement. This property does not have a pool, and it sits on a lot size of 9,000 square feet. This property was sold in July of 22 for $1,001,000, or at city's time adjusted sale price, this comes in at $940 or $320 price per square foot. Our fifth comp is 15 Driscoll Crescent. This property was built in 1979. It's a 3,000 square, has a 3,070 square feet of living area. It does have a finished basement, sits on a lot size of 9,755 square feet. This property does not have a pool. This property was sold in June of 21 for 1,165,000, or a time adjusted price of 1,222,000. Or a price per square foot of $398.08. I would like the board to move further down. Give me 1 second, I'll figure out the page. So I have inspected this property. I have attached the subject properties pictures on page number 10 and 11, 12, and 13 as well. We can see clearly this property have been in good kept condition, but has not received any renovations. The bathrooms are again still old bathrooms. Yes, there is a certain, the kitchen has not received any renovations as well by looking at the pictures. And I inspected this property up in about summertime. These were the pictures that I have taken myself. Moving down, I would request the board just quickly give me 1 second. So I would also request the board to move to page number 24, which is my closest comp before you guys ask me for that. Again, as Eric mentioned, we are looking at all the comps that we have in that neighborhood, but again, there needs to be you need to have some sort of starting point. So page number 24. I have put on pictures for comparable for 635 Holland Boulevard. It is about 300 meters away from our subject property, so very close to our subject property. And if you move further down on page 25, you can look at the properties comparable pictures. This property looks very similar to me in our compared to our subject property. In terms of the kitchen, built kitchen and the bathrooms as well. So that's why I have given it weightage. Even though this property, if you move further down on page number 26, you will look at the 6th picture, the bathrooms have been renovated. So for this property, so maybe a slight adjustment for comp number 4 for 635 Holland. And if you move further down on page number 27, I have pictures attached for comp 5, which is 15 Driscoll Crescent. I have not given this property a huge weightage, but I've used it over here because it's on the same street, cannot be ignored. But if you look at the pictures of this property, it has received significant renovations. It has renovated custom kitchen. It has all the 4 bathrooms have been renovated. It has renovated flooring throughout the throughout the house. Fixtures have been renovated in the bathroom. And I feel like there needs to be a certain significant downward adjustment needed for this property if we have to consider it as a comp with our subject properties conditions. That is all for me today.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Butcher?
I was trying to figure this out. I wonder if it's quite old, because I don't have it in my records here. Any idea when that additional area or addition was added to the house?
For the subject,
Yes.
I don't have the exact date, but when I inspected and I talked to the owner, he said it was past 15 years. He knows there was nothing done for the 15 years, but he said it was past 15 years. So it can be
That
any
makes sense, yeah.
part 50, I mean, it can be 18, 20, I would not want to make any comment on that. Other than it was past 15 years.
Yeah, I think that's basically all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Redmond, any questions?
No questions for me, thanks.
I have a question.
I also have no questions. Thank you.
Give me 1 second.
That it for you, Mr. Abad?
It is.
We get to go home now.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Right, this.
We have left. Yes.
No. Slightly, 351. What's my guess, we're moving out, President.
Thank you. President.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah. take it easy.
Just specifically, to, I remember you saying something about a call, you have to.
If we can hurry, I can get this done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call or applicant.
You're like, no promise, but no, and I did recall, I did have a a preliminary shoot.
With this property.
With the comparables being presented, the evidence
Oh,
being presented,
right.
being post-referenced, yeah.
Right. Okay, we will move on to 211 Portsmouth Boulevard.
Yeah, I'm just, 1 moment, please. Okay. Hello, Dr. Hashmi, how are you today?
Good, how's it going?
Good, good, you can hear and see us okay?
I can hear you guys perfectly. It's a long day. Been listening in on these conversations. Anyway, hope you guys are doing okay.
Thank you. I'll just affirm you at the moment, just so yeah, we can get rolling. So, Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Sajjad Hashmi,
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Hashmi.
Hi.
Start, Mr. Gucci.
The subject property is roll number 100026912000, commonly referred to as 211 Portsmouth Boulevard, located in South Tuxedo. It's a two-story, single-family home built in 1988. According to our records, it's in fairly original condition. We have 3,037 square feet of living space above grade. We have a full basement with basement finish, 3 full baths, 1 half bath, 2 extra showers, and central air conditioning. There are 2 fireplaces. We have an attached multiple garage, no detached garages, no pools, no sunrooms. It is located on a sizable lot, 21,271 square feet of land. We have 4 comparables today, or sorry, our 2025 assessed value is pegged at 1,068,000. Today I'm presenting 4 comparables, all located in South Tuxedo. They're all 2-story single family homes built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. None would be substantially renovated, but note that comps 3 and comp number 2 do have 10 years effective age, so they have received some updates. The dwelling range is pretty tight. Bottom of the range is 3,070 square feet, top of the range 3,265 square feet. They all have full basements. Note that comps 1 and 2 do have a addition or crawl space area as well. Basements are finished in all of them. Full baths range between 1 and 3, half baths range or 2 across the board. Extra showers, 2 across the board. Central AC present in all of the comparables. Fireplaces, they all have a fireplace. Comp 2 has 2, as does the subject. Attached garages, they all have either a built-in or a multiple attached garage, no detached garages. Note that comparable number 2 does have a pool, no sunrooms, site. As far as land, the first 2 comparables have a little bit larger lot. And the other 2, comps 3 and 4, have more of a standard lot for the area. Sales took place in 2021 and 2022. The range is between, at the low end, $1 million, and the high end, I've got 1.4 even, 1.4 million. This translates to an all-encompassing price per square foot range of 323 a square foot at the low end and 436 per square foot at the high end. The time adjusted sale price, so when we bring these comparables to our valuation date of April 1st, 2023, the range there is 954 at the low end and 1,439 at the high end. That translates to an adjusted price per square foot, a time adjusted price per square foot of a range between 308 and 441 a square foot. My recommendation is to maintain the assessed value of $1,068,000 as supported by the comparable sales. And I just put a note here that it's the subject property is located on a premium pilot. Are there any questions at all?
Yeah, no, just a couple quick things. So I had submitted some comparables. Did you look at, do you guys, I just want to make sure because my secretary had done that. Did that get sent in or we just listen to you? I'm just not familiar with the process here.
I have received your evidence and
Yeah.
the board obviously has if they send it to
Yes.
me. But it's right now it's just questions for me and then we can get into that.
Oh, okay, fair
Questions
enough.
on what I presented?
So the concern is, I guess, just with respect to, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of renovations, a lot of houses are being torn down and built. And I'm looking from your comparables, some of the houses, I guess, in the comparables were renovated, one had a pool. Is that right?
Comparable number 2 did have a pool, correct?
So if that's the case, do you bring down that comparable to factor in the pool?
Absolutely, yeah. Typically, I do full scale adjustments. I felt on these particular comparables that it was fairly similar in size. The 2 adjustments that I would probably make here would be the pool on comp number 2. So I would drop that $160K. And then the other adjustment that someone could look at would be a positive adjustment for the lot size. But I didn't go down that road. On this particular one, I felt the value was supported without having to dissect everything. So once in a while, because I'm limited on time, I have to make the decision whether or not I'm gonna start splitting hairs on everything. But here, yeah, you could definitely an adjustment for that, and then a positive adjustment, fairly substantial, like we're talking probably $100K upward adjustment for land size.
Okay, that was a concern of mine. And then and this is more just education for me. I look at it, just as an owner, it looks like it's gone up about 100,000 then in the last 2 years.
I didn't note the 2024 assessed value here, but
Sorry, I have the 23.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
is that the order of increasing that we're expecting in Tuxedo to go up by that magnitude approximately? Looks like, I would guess that'd be 5%, it'd be almost more than 10% over 2 years, so like 6-7%.
That would be a little on the low side from what, see, the thing is we publish market region areas, huge area, not just Tuxedo, it's a massive market region. That region 7, was up over 2 years, 11%.
Yeah.
Now, I've zoned into Old Tuxedo and Tuxedo, and I can tell you it's higher than those areas, neighborhoods went up more than the average in the market region, particularly Old Tuxedo. So it's a bit deceiving. We give kind of broad general area increases, but I don't like using them because very specific neighborhoods actually appreciate or depreciate more than the global average massive market regions.
I understand.
To answer your question, that makes total sense. Like if your property went up 11 or 10%, that would be like a market region average increase.
Okay, and I'm all about paying my share, my fair share of the taxes, and this is partially educational for me as well. The other things with respect to the South Tuxedo, and I was listening to the other gentleman as well too. Is there something that factors in the train, for example, that there's a train coming through that area, and that also the outlet mall is there, and there's kind of like light pollution almost coming through as well too. But I guess when you look at the comps, everybody is affected the same way with respect to the comps.
Yeah, so basically what we use is called land influences.
Yeah.
So you'll notice if you look at any properties that are backing onto the train tracks, you'll see a rail influence. And what we do is in our model, we'll analyze, we call that a negative influence, and the model will strip off a layer of value for being on the railway tracks. You'll also notice commercial influences. So you'll notice, and we have good market data, for example, in Old Tuxedo, the properties at the end that have the light pollution and the traffic from Corridon, they go for substantially less than the ones closer to Wellington. So we can pick up on the stuff as long as we have good data. But we do factor that in. None of the comparables or the subject property have really any influences. We do have external corner on comp one. I have mixed feelings about that. I don't mind being on a corner because I have one less neighbor to deal with, but that's me. Some people maybe like more neighbors. Depends how you feel about that. So I don't really
My
factor
particular
corners, but
property is pretty close to the railway. I mean, we hear it all the time, so I don't know if that makes a difference. I know, even when we purchased the house, that was a consideration. And our neighbors, have discussed it as well too, with respect to that. That was just one concern about that. And yeah, I think that's okay. And then, I had my agent just take a look at some of the other comparables. I'm okay with the question component of it. And these are the comparables that we looked at, to see if, what your thoughts were about these comparables. They're obviously not completely analogous to my property with one respect or another, but it's always hard to find an exact match to make a correlation.
trust me, I know how you feel.
Mr. Hashmi, did you have any further questions on what the?
No, I'm good with that.
You're good? All right, thank you. You'll have a chance to speak to you about your property in a moment. Ms. Redmond, do you have any questions to the assessor?
No questions for the assessor, thanks.
Thank you. And Rose?
No questions.
And I also have no questions. So, Mr. Hashmi, if you can give us the information on your property. I do have one thing to say in regards to the information you sent to us. You gave us sales data, but these are all post-reference sales.
Oh my, really?
Yes, sorry, we are looking for sales prior to April 1st, 2023.
Prior to 2023. Okay, well then that's my fault. I mean, I guess if there is an appreciation of property, having the sales data that is more newer would say maybe even add more teeth to the claims, that the assessment is high, but I understand it has to be within the period of time. I respect that there. Oh, well, that's very unfortunate then. Then I really don't have any data to present, unfortunately, then.
But you can tell us about your property.
Well, I mean, the property is kind of like what you were mentioning. It hasn't been renovated like a lot of the other properties. There's been no additions added to the property itself. I have 3 young children, so we wanted to wait till the kids were a little bit older before we did a kind of comprehensive renovation, because the kids would probably beat up the property. The only other thing is just the train is a significant, has a impact on on everything there. So that was one thing that I wanted to mention. And we also had especially my block in particular, we have the light pollution from the outlet mall. And I don't know if you go to the outlet mall, but there's a big sign there that says "Eat" on the outside, and people would sometimes joke around and call Portsmouth and Park Place East Eat Street. Because they could see the sign kind of coming down. And I think they are now turning that sign off at nighttime, but that was just another significant thing. But with respect to my house, it hasn't been renovated. When I did this a few years ago, I did invite the assessors to come and take a look at the property to see if they wanted, if that would kind of change things, but nobody did follow up with respect to that. And that if the if the comparables are for properties of my date of my house, and the price substantiates that rate, then that's fine. But if the properties are bigger in a more desirable area of South Tuxedo, if they are not as proximate to the train or to the outlet mall light pollution, then maybe the comparables would not be as reflective. That's it.
All right, thank you. Did you have any questions, Mr. Roach?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Redmond, did you have any questions?
Oh, I think you're.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I couldn't get to my microphone. No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
I just have Couple of quick questions. You talk about the train that
Yep.
is near the property. Is the train ever using its horn?
Yeah, I do hear a horn, absolutely. And I think what it is I think if the trains have to, maybe if it's crossing up, because right at Shasberry, there's a crossing there. And so sometimes a horn goes off. So for sure I hear it, but we hear the train almost every time. My bedroom is kind of facing south, and so our windows are right there, and so you know, for sure if the TV isn't on, we can hear it. It's not like at a point where it's like waking me up from sleep or anything like that, but you can hear it for sure.
Okay, so we have your house as being built in 88 with an effective age of 1988. So your kitchen is original, or can you describe your kitchen, your cabinets? Do you have?
Yeah, so it's original kitchen, but I would say the only thing that we've done is we've painted the house itself. So the house is painted, you know, on the exterior for sure, and then also on the interior as well.
Okay, and what, you didn't state a number that you're looking for your home?
You know, I'll be honest, I'm just kind of going through this process to see. I'm all about doing what's fair, and but I just wanted to kind of see what the process is, and whatever's fair is what I'm all about. So I'm not asking for anything in particular, a number or anything like that at all. But if the comparables are, you know, are what substantiates that increase, then I'm okay with it actually. And but if they've factored in kind of some of the things that I've mentioned and they haven't, then, you know, if there was a proportionate decrease, that would be good as well.
Okay, so no number.
Do I have to give a number? Well, why do we say it looks like it's 100,000? Okay, I'll say half the amount.
Sorry, so you want a decrease of 50?
So, but yeah, I think so. It's is it 1,069,000? Is that what was the
1,068,000.
68? So let's say 1 million. So subtract 50,000 from that.
All right. Thank you, and I have no further questions. And,
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
thank you for.
Hopefully I'm the last
being
one.
appearance. Yes.
Thanks for your patience.
Okay, no problem, and all the best.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, take care. Bye-bye.
We are going to take a short recess.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to call this hearing back to order. And we are looking at 40 Deersley Place, item number 9 on the docket. And we have no appearance by the applicant. Let's go to whenever you're ready.
Subject property is roll number 100040728000, commonly referred to as 40 Deersley Place, located in the neighborhood of South Tuxedo, a 2-story, single-family home built in 2006. I have no effective age, and the condition and quality at average. Living area 4,585 square feet. Full basement. There's a lot of basement finish. We have 2,010 square feet of basement finish, 1 full bath. I have 6 half baths with 5 extra showers, lots of bathrooms, central AC, 1 fireplace, an attached multiple garage, no detached garages, no pools. I have a 216 square foot sunroom on site. Fairly standard plot of land, 12,390 square feet. The 2025 assessed value is pegged at 1,706,000, presenting 3 comparables today, all in South Tuxedo, all 2-story single family homes. built in the late eighties to mid nineties. Note that comparable 1 and comparable 3 have downward adjustments for condition. After reviewing the pictures, I decided that they were superior to the subject. The square footage range of my comparables is at the low end 3,923 square feet and at the high end 4,400 square feet. So all smaller than the subject. All have full basements with part areas, so additions as well, or areas on crawl. We have basement finish. I provided square footage. So comp 1 is 1,500, comp 2 has no basement finish, comp 3 has 1,400 square feet of basement finish. Full baths range between 1 and 3, half baths range between 2 and 4, showers range between 1 and 4, all have central AC. Fireplaces range between 1 and 2. All have a multiple attached garage, no detached garages. Note comp 3 has a pool. Sunrooms not present in any of the comparables. Land consistent in comps 1 and 2 with a sort of a standard plot. Comp 3 would adjust it downwards for its size. I did only adjust 75,000 downwards because there is a super mailbox on site. So although it is a premium lot, it does suffer from some negative impacts from that location. Sales took place in 2021, 2022. The ranges are between the sales price range between 1,550,000 at the low end and 2 million at the high end. That's giving us a price per square foot all in at 352 on the low side and 50 or 510 on the high side. Time adjusted sale price when we bring these comps to our reference date, April 1st, 2023. We've got 1,635,000 at the low end and 2,140,000 at the high end. Once appropriate adjustments are provided, we have a pretty wild range here: 1,475,000 at the low end and 2,086,000 at the high end. My recommendation is to maintain the assessed value of 1,706,000 as supported by the adjusted comparables. Kind of in the middle of my range, but I do not like to see a wide range like this. It is what it is. Are there any questions at all?
Yeah, Ms. Redmond, any questions to the assessor?
No, no questions, thanks.
House? I also have no questions. All the items have been heard on the docket this afternoon, and this hearing is closed. Mr. Butchie, thank you for your time this afternoon.